One Yu Ilshin, a famously unlucky web novel author, is having a terrible day. His big submission deadline is tomorrow, but his creative spark is completely dead. Instead, his brain has shut down, leaving him unable to write a decent sentence. So his eyes naturally drift to his phone like it holds the secrets of life. Like any real expert at dodging responsibility, he decides to organize his screen. Sorting through apps he never uses feels highly productive until he spots something odd. There is a strange icon on his screen that he definitely never downloaded. Checking it out, he finds a weird game called God Maker installed on his device. The screen shows tiny ants alongside an interface that feels incredibly robotic and stiff. This dry dialogue makes him assume the game is completely useless. Still, since he is already wasting time, he taps the screen to procrastinate. That is when everything changes, the moment his finger makes contact with the glass. Giant monster ants materialize. He has to fight them off with just his hands. His actual fingers are suddenly packed with power. His index finger completely crushes them. Meanwhile, his middle finger punishes, and his ring finger heals him. He is basically a spellcasting wizard using weird hand gestures, not very heroic, but effective. And that is how Yu Ilshin, with a major deadline tomorrow, starts slacking off. He enjoys this sudden break, while his phone explodes with notifications. His editors are calling him every name in the book for completely ghosting them. But our lazy author views this absolute chaos as a glorious escape. He tells himself he is saving the world, but in reality, he is not. Instead, he is just writing a brand new story inside a terrifying ant nest. So how exactly did Yu Ilshin get tangled up in this bizarre mess? It all started when mysterious portals began appearing out of nowhere. Terrifying gates tore open, and waves of monsters began flooding the human world. Naturally, everyone panicked, but right when hope seemed completely lost, protectors arrived. The brave hunters stepped up, having somehow awakened incredible, superhuman powers. They turned monster hunting into a highly respected, full-time profession. These people are not just showing off cool swords and flashy moves either. Harnessing a force called God Energy, they steal artifacts from fallen beasts. Thanks to them, humanity finally caught a small glimmer of hope. Now hunters are ranked from legendary double S down to bottom tier G. Let us be honest, those bottom G rank hunters are barely special. They are basically just slightly motivated, ordinary people. Once your rank is officially assigned during the evaluation, it is permanent. There is zero chance of climbing. Nearby, a young girl stares at a flashy recruitment poster with pure anger. She looks like the advertisement personally insulted her entire existence. In her other hand, her evaluation form still reads B rank. Despite endless brutal training and near breakdowns, her rank refuses to budge. Suddenly, a voice speaks behind her. She hopes it is a talent scout. Surely the universe has finally noticed her genius, but she is wrong. It is just a random guy standing there, completely ruining her dramatic moment. She labels him suspicious. As a hot-headed lightning user, she has absolutely zero chill right now. Palm without much effort, the young man realizes he just walked into a hornet nest, scrambling through his bag as if searching for lost social skills. And then bolts to answer a phone call. She watches him leave with narrowed eyes. By the way, this annoyed lightning girl is Mirai, a B-rank hunter. Her name gets called next, so she enters the exam room with a tiny sliver of hope, still clinging on, but after all that sweating and intense performance stress, her results are exactly the same, still B-rank. She nearly melts into the floor from disappointment. Before she can mope too long, her phone blares an emergency alert. A gate has opened in the city, releasing an A-rank horned rhino monster that is running completely wild. All nearby A-rank hunters must hurry over, because this giant beast is definitely not friendly. Meanwhile, the park is in absolute chaos. Screams echo everywhere. It is a monster rampage, not tourist attraction. Of course, our protagonist is right in the thick of it, trying To get a little girl, Seon, to safety, she trips, and as he helps her up, the monstrous rhino charges straight at them. Mirai arrives, launching her. Attack like a true heroine. Too bad the beast barely reacts to her strike. Brushing it off easily, she tries again with everything she has got, summoning a whole storm of power, yet the beast still looks more annoyed than injured. Moments later, it knocks her away. Gritting her teeth, she forces herself up, discovering in that painful instant exactly how enormous the gap between B and a rank hunters really is. Her eyes flick to him, shielding Seon, and fear instantly tightens in her chest. She shouts at them to run while she holds the monster off. She tries summoning her lightning again, but her energy is fading fast. Meanwhile, the rhino lowers its head, ready to send her on a one-way trip to the sky. She remembers her childhood, crying, furious, swearing revenge on monsters, while her mom warns her not to become a machine of hatred. But there is no time for philosophy. She gathers whatever spark she has left when suddenly a loud voice about a crushing finger blow echoes in her mind. Unbelievable power bursts through her, feeling like she just plugged herself directly into a massive power plant. Lightning wraps her in a raging storm as a massive bolt forms in her hand. She hurls it with all her strength. A blinding flash explodes through the park, and when the light finally fades, the monster collapses, completely defeated. Soon enough, guards are everywhere. Reporters swarm like bees to honey, shouting about how Mirai, the lightning huntress, despite her stubborn B rank, just took down an a rank beast. Honestly, she is standing there still trying to figure out how she even pulled it off, as that mysterious surge of power definitely does not feel normal. The young man walks up to thank her, but she waves him off, relieved that little Seon is safe. He thanks her again and walks away, while she casually waves back until her brain registers that he knew her name. Her eyes widen as she recalls the voice that echoed in her mind during the battle. His voice, the exact same one. Suddenly, she realizes he might not be the clueless, awkward stranger she assumed he was. Night rolls in and the protagonist ends up standing on a bridge that is famous for its dark, gloomy vibes, not because he is planning to jump. Life has already thrown enough disasters his way, but he is trying to figure out how he and his nephew, son, almost got themselves killed over the phone he is clutching like a ticking bomb. Disguised as a smartphone, to make sense of everything, let's take a trip back to a few days ago. Our guy is pretending to work at a restaurant. Pretending is the word, because his brain clocked out hours ago on an extended vacation, leaving him with just a vague urge to look busy. So naturally, he caves and grabs his phone like any responsible adult. Skipping his actual duties, that is when he spots a random game he doesn't even remember downloading. The text inside looks like a robot chewed up the letters and spat them out, but boredom wins. He taps the screen and squashes an in-game ant. Suddenly, in a fraction of a second, things go completely chaotic. A real gold coin shoots right out of the phone, hits his forehead, bounces off his laptop, and lands on the keyboard. The game literally congratulates him for getting closer to becoming an almighty evil god. Our guy stares from the coin to the screen, wondering if he has lost his mind or if the universe is just trolling him. But it turns out he really has awakened an ability, naturally his. Next stop is the local testing center. Right away, people start mocking his actual name, which literally translates to only God. Honestly, even he cringes, even though he is totally used to life being unfair. Soon, the desk clerk confirms he's awakened. For one beautiful moment, he starts daydreaming about quitting writing forever. He thinks even an E- rank could let him comfortably run away from deadlines. Honestly, who wouldn't take that? But the universe has a cruel sense of humor. His rank is G rank, and his dreams do not just shatter. They completely dissolve in a cloud of cosmic sarcasm. The clerk hands him a paper explaining his unique skill lets him create materials. Basically, he is still totally ordinary. She politely asks if he wants to officially register for a fee, but he declines instantly. G-ranks can't even enter dungeons, so paying for a license feels like a total joke. He drags himself home, boots up his laptop, and tries writing. 5. Exhausting hours later, his screen is just endless typing and deleting, as if his hands are on strike. Giving up, he finally turns on the television. The news is packed with legendary hunters, like Baekhyun shutting down catastrophic dungeons, followed by Sung Mina promoting her Raid skincare cream. Our exhausted writer shuts the television off right before his brain completely rebels, lies down, and hopes a good sleep might magically fix his life. Naturally, the game alerts start ringing the moment he closes his eyes. Half annoyed and half curious, he finally opens the application. More ants appear, more coins fly out, and he ends up fighting them like they owe him cash. By dawn, he amasses a pile of coins, purely through stubbornness before crashing. When he wakes up in the morning, most coins are gone, leaving only those marked with 100. The smaller ones just read 1, so he knows something incredibly bizarre is happening here. Then the screen congratulates him again. Apparently he has unlocked the hunter shop, presenting 2 choices. Our guy knows better than his curiosity is way louder than common sense, so he clicks. He taps yes. Meanwhile, the nation's biggest players are gathering. We have business leaders, politicians, the president, and the Hunter Association chief. Why this sudden, massive meeting? Someone just awakened a brand new ability. They can open a hunter shop, a rare skill only creative types get. Now people can buy godly items and skills straight from the source. Everyone stares at the entrance like it holds the secrets of life. Then, S-rank Kang Woo arrives. He is the S-rank hunter opening the shop, accompanied by sensory hunter Song Mina. They stand ready to brief the VIPs, while President Zhonghai quietly observes. Kang Woo initiates the shop. Everyone watches him like it is a sacred ritual. A sudden breeze sweeps through the room. That is basically it. President Haewon glances around and notes that he sees a grand total of nothing. An assistant politely explains that this is actually entirely normal. Only the hunter who activated the store can physically lay eyes on it. But Song Mina is here to fix that with her unique psychomancy. She clears her throat and unleashes her skill. Boom. Now they see high-class potions, a holy sword, and rare mystic items. Most people would assume this gear is fake until they see it. Every single item has a price tag, displaying the hunter's gold balance. Poor Kang Woo has exactly 0, pretty ironic for the main star. Still, the crowd is buzzing with excitement over these mythical treasures. But before they get too carried away, President Haewon steps in. He reminds everyone that their country's entire future depends on this shop. He demands absolute secrecy and plans to assign S-class guards immediately. Several elite hunters will protect Kang Woo. Meanwhile, somewhere far away, our boy Yu Ilshin is dealing with his own chaotic shop. The system asks if he wants to spend 100 coins. He agrees instantly. Just like that, his hard-earned gold coins vanish. Now he is left wondering why these bizarre coins keep showing up. Maybe it is because he is also a creation-type hunter. But the power gap between him and Kang Woo is absolute. Dirt floor versus heaven. Still, a man can dream of making cash. His problem, he has less than 400 coins right now. To make things worse, everything in the store is totally unreadable. Every price tag sits in the absurd 100,000 range. Meanwhile, he barely scraped together 300 coins by fighting ants all night. Suddenly, the store screen scrolls on its own, stopping at an item. It is almost like the system is mocking his terrible decision-making skills. Naturally, his clumsy self accidentally buys it. Outstanding move, genius. He bought the Eye of the Blind God for 100 gold. The description claims it is a mysterious godly skill activated by wind. Even if the user sees the truth, they technically will not. Before Yu Ilshin can properly complain about buying this divine garbage, His eyesight suddenly goes into a complete and terrifying malfunction mode. He panics, throws his phone away like it is cursed, and desperately fumbles to dial emergency services, which is pretty hard when you cannot see. He was dialing, and then his foot smacks into something hard. The pain hits instantly. It brings tears to his eyes, but a second later, his vision snaps right back to normal. He sighs, picking up the phone again. Strangely, a bizarre change has just taken over. He can suddenly read the weird text. Naturally, his ego starts inflating. Maybe he really is the main character, the lucky guy who unlocks god-tier powers. After suffering, knowing his luck, though, it is probably just a temporary trial. Still, he has heard rumors of lucky hunters whose classes actually evolved. So he allows himself one sweet moment of absolute delusion before checking the shop again. He searches for something cheap, eventually spotting a skill called the Crushing Index. Finger of the God, it is a growth-type skill with a name epic enough to feed his pride, since every other item costs the kind of cash only millionaires have. He buys it for another 100 gold. Naturally, he has to test it immediately. The result, his air conditioner starts clicking on and off like some celestial remote. He points his finger at the television and the exact same thing happens. He realizes this grand divine power is literally just a magical remote control. He aims it at his laptop next, desperately praying for a bit of writing help. But let's be real, a good story does not just write itself. No cheap skill can do that, while he sits there begging the blank screen. His phone suddenly rings. It is his manager calling, and as he picks up, the man is practically screaming with pure joy. Turns out, the silly notes he wrote about his chaotic battle against local ants are actually decent. Even he cannot believe it. How could those messy thoughts impress anyone? Yet his manager is fully sold and immediately demands the next chapter. He asks when the draft will be finished, acting as if our boy has a masterpiece hidden away. He was ready for a brutal scolding, but instead he panics and ends up begging for a 2-day extension. The manager, still hyped up, agrees immediately and fires off some energetic motivation before hanging up. He never guessed his petty war with bugs would make for good writing material. Since it brings in results, he jumps straight back into smashing the little pests. Not out of personal spite, mind you, this is strictly professional business. Well, desperate business, but still, he keeps tapping away until he collects 100 small gold coins, which instantly fuse into one single, larger coin. At least the stacking mechanic makes sense now, though it does not solve his problem. The cheapest gear in the shop costs a massive 1,000 gold. Searching further, his eyes catch an item called the Protection of the Growth God. Sure, it is only a rookie deity, but it still sounds much better than a skill that acts as a cheap, remote control backup. His heart races with excitement, making him resolve to save every single coin. Determined, he goes straight back to hunting ants, but then one target completely breaks the pattern. This little pest dodges every single strike. Even stranger, it is not black. Like the others, it is bright red, leaving him wondering if this is a miniature boss monster. Naturally, the challenge only fuels his burning determination. He taps furiously, but the tiny red bug easily slips away. Finally, annoyed to his core, he unleashes the legendary tapping rhythm from his old gaming days and still misses, so he decides to vent his absolute rage on the He collects the regular coins instead, farming them one after another. His karma points steadily rise as well, putting him just inches away from a new title. The legendary title of the great evil god who craves absolute power, once he claims it. The massive rewards are his, but our guy is practically asleep. He finally drops his phone onto the mattress and collapses into deep sleep as he drifts off. That mysterious passive skill from the blind god triggers. Suddenly, he wakes up in a completely empty movie theater, holding snacks and drinks. On the massive screen, the exact same red ant he barely managed to beat starts crawling around. It is contemplating the terrifying strength of the Black Tribe's god who sacrificed His own worshippers just to stop him. The heavily wounded, bleeding insect keeps moving forward. Desperate to deliver a warning to its colony, it limps back to a massive cave, which serves as the central nest for its species. It is spitting blood but struggles forward to report the disaster, deep inside the other. Red ants are feasting on food in what looks like a massive insect dining hall. Completely relaxed, but the moment the battered scout manages to get their full attention, it yells out that it discovered where the missing captives went. Then it tells a desperate story about the dark god of the black tribe, describing how their entire squad was wiped out and how it barely survived. It urges the colony to strike first, before the monster arrives. The cave is quiet for a moment, then the entire room bursts into loud laughter as if they just heard a hilarious joke. They mock its cowardice, claiming it is making things up, and treat the dangerous warning like a complete joke. But just as the mockery hits its peak, a massive, ancient red ant steps inside. In an instant, the rowdy insects freeze and show absolute respect. They quickly stand at attention, and the battered scout bows low. This senior ant, unlike the rest of the flock, takes the report very seriously. It even senses the lingering sinister energy itself. It firmly reminds the nest that this cavern is the territory of their great emperor, and no minor deity will humiliate them. Knowing that its superior actually trusts its word, the scout gets incredibly overwhelmed and starts crying. The old commander gently steps forward and touches the broken soldier. Instantly, all its critical wounds heal up completely. Next, the veteran orders the scout to lead the march to crush this shadow god. Inspired by this, the other warriors immediately step forward to help, forming a lethal army right behind their leader, ready to start a war. Meanwhile, our main character gasps awake, drenched in sweat, trembling from that intense vision. The dream felt so insanely lifelike that he struggles to distinguish reality from fantasy. Is he a human who dreamed of bugs, or a bug dreaming of humanity? Either way, his thoughts are cut short when his phone buzzes with an alert. Checking the display, he sees the red ant army marching across the screen. They look highly aggressive. The system warns that nature actively rejects evil, catching him off guard as massive waves of enemy soldiers spawn right there. The same veteran general from his vision stands proud at the center. Before he can even react, a violent beam of energy blasts directly out of the phone, slicing a fresh cut right across his forehead. He barely has time to bleed before the veteran warrior leaps straight out of the game screen to finish him. As if it just pulled off some legendary move, they clearly think he is the evil god they have been training to defeat. But then the older red ant panics and orders a full retreat because they are the ones getting absolutely roasted now. More blinding light bursts out, frying the older red ant first before engulfing the rest. One by one, our hero frantically taps away at his screen, treating the poor phone like a punching bag. When everything finally stops, he looks down at his device. The screen is shattered and dusty, but still clinging to life, with the exact same determination the injured ant had at the start. That is, when he breaks down and cries, his room looks like someone shook a treasure chest over it and walked away, leaving gold coins scattered everywhere. Meanwhile, he sits there with blood slowly dripping down his face from the cut on his forehead, looking less like a hero and more like someone who lost a massive fight with his own phone. And speaking of the phone, despite the abuse, the poor thing still powers on long enough to inform him that he is now the official evil god. Honestly, pity that poor phone. Anyways, he has unlocked the prestigious title of Cruel Slaughter God, which he got because his karma hit 1000. This boosts his battle luck, though at this point he would probably settle for regular human luck. As he tries to absorb all this nonsense, he notices the coins merging again, glowing dramatically, of course, and right in the middle sits a ring. Naturally, he picks it up, and for reasons known only to him, he sniffs it like he is some ring connoisseur. Somehow that alone makes him feel refreshed, like he is suddenly Sitting in a calm forest instead of his chaotic disaster of a room, he tries wearing the ring, but it barely makes it past his pinky before something hits. His body feels completely renewed. It is like someone pressed a reset button. On his fatigue, he is still processing this miracle when his phone buzzes yet. Again, the blind god's special authority activates and the ring starts to analyze. It turns out to be the druid's ring, the same one the older red ant wore all its life. It holds the life energy of the forest and boosts elemental power. That is when our boy gets a genius idea. Can he analyze other things too? He gives it a shot. The blind god's authority activates again. He glances at his TV, and the next second he gets a detailed breakdown, including the fact that he has had it for a year and still owes 3 months of installment payments. Then he checks his laptop, then his bed. The verdict on the bed, 10 years old and begging to be replaced. Talk about a call-out. That one hurts on a personal level, deciding he has learned enough painful truths for one day. He stops before he accidentally analyzes something else and ruins his mood. But the ring, the analyzing skill, the sudden stamina boost, all of it gets in his head. Suddenly being labeled G-rank feels wrong, so he convinces himself there must have been a mistake and heads to the ability test center to retake the test. At the counter, the receptionist repeats very politely, very firmly, that mistakes in the first exam happen in less than 1% of cases. She asks again if he is sure. Our hero proudly declares yes. That confidence lasts maybe a few seconds because she explains that the retest costs several million since the first one is the only free attempt. The poor guy almost forgets to breathe as she presses him to make a fast choice. With crowds waiting, he searches his wallet and his soul, only to realize that even with absolute luck, he is getting an F-rank upgrade at best, which is not worth millions of gold, so he quietly folds and walks away, regretting every step, his sudden confidence and wild delusion, all because he put on that single shiny ring. He heads to the lobby and collapses onto a couch. Furious at wasting precious writing time, he figures he must have lost his mind. He was temporarily insane. With the place packed, he struggles to find some writing inspiration to distract himself. But then, the blind god's unholy power flares up again, suddenly analyzing every single person around him. An avalanche of personal info pops up, the dark secrets people never want exposed in public, after finding out way too much about complete strangers' medical conditions. He desperately forces himself to look away. Otherwise, he is going to look completely crazy, and that is when he spots Mary. Instantly, her profile screen flashes open, and weirdly, while everyone else's last names are hidden, her full name is completely visible. Stranger still, the system notes that she loves thrilling things, so he slowly approaches her, fully aware he is stepping right into a public embarrassment. After buffering for a solid second, he blurts out a weird question, asking if she wants some real excitement. Yeah, he really said that. Naturally, Mary shoots him a deadly, irritated glare as tiny sparks of electricity crackle around her fingers like a warm-up stretch before she fries him. He quickly begs her not to misunderstand, which is hilarious since even he doesn't buy his own ridiculous excuse. Hoping she will buy it is pure delusion. Mary is literally one breath away from turning him into grilled Ilshin in front of everyone, and let's be real, the crowd would probably cheer, but right before she unleashes her lightning magic, his ringing phone heroically decides to save his life. He practically tears his bag apart to find it, sees his sister's caller ID, and flees mid-sentence, leaving a very annoyed Mary behind. Outside, he answers his sister's call. She immediately yells at him for always begging for extra cash. Honestly, that's just her love language at this point. He finally tells her to be on time and hangs up, feeling incredibly relieved, since not getting disowned is a massive win. At the park, he meets his niece Sunyan, who is so adorable that he wonders how such a sweet child came from his terrifying sister. But when she asks about his past, His mind flashes right back to that disastrous encounter with Mary, instantly, ruining his mood. Still, she looks up at him with that cute, curious face, and he fights the urge to pinch her cheeks. But of course he fails. She instantly snaps her head away in offense, reminding him how much she hates that. He begs for forgiveness, knowing that once she gets upset, it takes forever to fix. Babysitting a sulky child is a real struggle. Using his blind god's eye skill, he sneaks a peek at her profile and sees she is craving chocolate ice cream. When he suggests getting some, she practically drools with excitement. They head inside, and she orders a chocolate cone, while he pays in coins, but the cashier's cheerful smile suddenly starts to fade. She suddenly looks like she is questioning all her life choices. She starts scooping a cone so tiny it should honestly be illegal. He can feel her judging him, hard, all for some pocket change. And she definitely is, but then he remembers his weird cheat skill. The crushing index finger of God, time for some consumer rights. He uses it on the machine, forcing it to unleash a massive soft serve avalanche. After that little standoff, they head right back to the park. He asks Sunnyong for a bite, but she shields it like treasure. He just lets her enjoy her tiny victory and tries to relax, until his phone starts buzzing again because peace is never an option. The game announces his cruel slaughter title is active, boosting his luck. A creepy voice starts speaking, making him scan the area for pranksters. But the system just keeps spamming red alerts. Danger is heading his way. Suddenly, a massive horned rhino spawns, completely ready to eat him for divinity. Luckily, Mirai put that beast down. Now, fast forward to the present. Our guy is staring off a bridge, looking deeply depressed about life. In this crazy game, his username is Nameless God, which is fitting. He is absolutely certain that Giant Rhino was targeting him specifically. Once the monster died, the system rewarded him with a title upgrade. Now he can claim a minor evil god power for free from the shop. Naturally, he blames his cursed phone for dragging him into this mess. He is about to yeet the thing into the river when another update pops. A new notification flashes. This time, it's about a certain saintly god. Inside his game screen, giant red ants completely slaughter the local tribal guards. They are marching deep into enemy territory on a brutal assassination mission. Their target is the saint, and the system asks if he wants to help. The tiny insect is screaming for aid. He hesitates, thinking it over. He still remembers how pathetic he felt facing that giant rhino earlier. Meanwhile, on screen, one of the massive red ants mocks the saint. It tells her to accept her fate as a snack for the emperor. But before it can finish gloating, a massive blast cooks the bug. Our hero decided it was time to host a giant bug barbecue. He has fully unlocked his inner pest control. These ants are huge. They are much larger than regular garden ants, but that will not stop him. He keeps frying them like they are cheap snacks on a hot grill. Gold coins rain down everywhere, and the rescued saint politely asks his name. The moment he answers, she instantly vows to serve him as her savior. She treats him like the legendary hero of her tragic insect tale. The system rewards his efforts with a new title, Benevolent Savior. Holding both good and evil titles instantly shifts his alignment to completely neutral. He also pockets a neat bonus of 100,000 gold coins. Our guy nearly melts on the spot with joy over his new fortune. Having over 108,000 coins instantly heals his soul. He opens up the hunter shop and buys a powerful growth shield. The moment the deal is done, a glowing potion materializes right there. The item description claims it contains bodily fluids shed by a legendary truth seeker. Apparently, they dropped these while climbing the divine ladder of enlightenment. Mortals supposedly unlock hidden potential by chugging it, and the game suggests stocking up. Our main guy sniffs the stuff, confirms it smells normal, and just drinks it. He even buys a few more bottles and downs them all, fast. Nothing happens. Did he just waste a literal fortune on this stuff? Then he suddenly collapses. While knocked out, the system alerts him that this unique authority gets boosted through increased assimilation. He eventually wakes up in bed with absolutely no memory of dragging himself home. Checking his phone brings instant regret. Those giant red pests are trapped outside the screen now. They have upgraded and are swarming his room, his bed, and his floor. His apartment is basically turned into a chaotic five-star battlefield. This is definitely not the sort of game update he wanted. He sprints for the door, but it is locked. That gives the swarm plenty of time to rush him and start biting relentlessly. He desperately looks at the window. He is on the third floor, so jumping is a terrible idea, but logic has completely left the building. So he charges toward the glass anyway. Unfortunately for him, the window is bolted shut. He slams face first into it and drops. The bugs regroup, preparing to launch a full-scale assault. He grabs a nearby web novel and hurls it with insanely perfect aim, somehow squishing their leader. Their tiny artillery unit proudly launches a volley of arrows, which turn out to be tiny toothpick-like splinters. The colony starts celebrating, just like they won an epic war, while he stands there annoyed. These pathetic little needles feel like mild, irritating mosquito bites. Then he notices a can of bug spray lying nearby, filled with absolute fury. Pure exhaustion, he sprays it directly into the swarm, setting them ablaze. He is done being polite. There is no mercy for these annoying insects. Breathing is hard, he cannot move, and the fire is spreading fast. Honestly, who wouldn't think this was the end? But a notification pops up. The system suddenly drops a massive legendary gift called Silently Creeping Nightmare. It comes directly from a high-ranking evil deity. Of course, the game warns that gifts from evil gods might boost his dark tendencies. But he accepts the gift without any hesitation. Meanwhile, Mary is practicing her lightning abilities out on a mountain near the city. Deep down, she is constantly replaying the massive boost in her power from the horned rhino fight. Once she fully masters that immense strength, sweet revenge is within reach. She is totally focused on her training until she spots a building smoking in the distance. Right inside that very apartment, our protagonist is choking on thick smoke right in the middle of his burning home. The game helpfully announces that part of his nightmare ability has merged with his unique authority. He is too busy choking to care, cursing the system for being utterly useless when he needs real help. He tries activating his special index finger technique, but it completely fails him, so slumping straight onto the dirty floor, completely out of options. Lying exhausted on the floor, Sungwoon wonders if this is his grand exit from life. Right then, the wall explodes, and the Eye of the Blind God activates to scan the newcomer. When Mirai appears, he still does not recognize her since his failing senses are barely hanging on. But then he catches her profile, remembering she loves dangerous, thrilling stunts, and that's when his last brain cell clicks. He only knows one person who treats danger as a casual hobby. Soon after, Sungwoon is resting in a hospital, joined by his sister and Seunggun. Seunggun looks suspicious, demanding a secret family code to prove his identity. That code is just calling his sister fat. The moment he says it, Seunggun happily accepts him as her uncle. They share a sweet moment while his sister overhears everything and gets ready to smack them both. She does not spare her daughter either. He tries pointing out that he is still recovering, but she is too busy lecturing him. Acting like a beating is part of his medical treatment. While he is being scolded or fixed, as she calls it, Seunggun spots someone at the door. She opens it expecting a visitor, but only finds a flower basket on the floor. She brings it inside to show Sungwoon. The card offers a warm recovery wish, and he begins guessing the sender, assuming it is his manager trying to act polite for once. Meanwhile, Mirai watches the hospital from a nearby rooftop. She recalls pulling him out of the flames and carrying him all the way there, noting how her powers get a massive boost whenever he is close by. She has been quietly observing him, trying to figure out why he messes with her abilities like that. Suddenly, she realizes she is acting exactly like a stalker deciding to head home before her sister catches her. But as she turns to leave, she spots Sungwoon doing something incredibly strange. Through his window, meanwhile in the game, the other insects are desperately trying to stop their saint from offering their tribe's treasure to the hero, but she has already decided he saved them from the Imperial Army. And giving him this treasure is the only way she feels they can repay a fraction of the guilt they carry for forgetting him for ages. Back in the hospital room, Sungwoon is not acting suspicious at all. He is simply annoyed by this ridiculous game, though honestly, he looks like he needs some serious psychological help. He gets incredibly irritated because the virtual ants will not stop nagging him while he is recovering. Suddenly, he sees the saint and her people praying to him, prompting the game to offer their tribute. He is thrilled since only truly important figures receive tributes, which now apparently includes him. After he accepts, a small object pops out of the phone and rolls into his hand. It is a world tree fruit, one of the legendary fruits left behind by a god. He sniffs it, finding nothing. Odd sees that it boosts his stamina and eats it. Immediately, a strange feeling spreads through him. His eyes water and his nose runs like a faucet, the flavor hitting him like a direct personal attack. It is salty, bitter, and spicy, combining every terrible taste to ruin his day. But when he finally rips off his bandages, he just freezes in complete shock. Every burn is gone, wiped away like they never happened. Meanwhile, Mirai, the bystander, stares at him, absolutely speechless, remembering how he looked just moments ago. He looked like a charred potato, now good as new. Meanwhile, our hero is suddenly buzzing with incredible energy, feeling alive again. The system promptly tells him to bless the local ants in exchange for their gifts. Naturally, he stands there looking utterly confused by the sudden request. What could these tiny, adorable little bugs possibly want from a god? Down in the game, the colony is in total panic. They gave up their precious tribal treasure, but their god remains completely silent. Just as they prepare for the worst, sparkly particles rain down. Upon contact, wounds vanish instantly, and even shattered limbs grow back. The insects literally weep, convinced they have just witnessed a grand miracle. They weep with joy over the miracle, and the game quickly updates. He now boasts 101 devoted believers and a massive faith score. He has also secured nearly 10,000 white god coins, which is a massive haul. And all he did was sprinkle a little ordinary sugar. They are honestly pretty cute. Later on, he makes his way to the market. One look is enough to tell him that this place is bad news. He searches for a quiet shop to avoid scammers and unnecessary drama. Finally, he spots a small, unassuming shop and decides to step inside. He steps inside, completely unaware of the tale behind him. A stalker has been watching his every move. Talk about bad luck. A friendly girl named Dahai welcomes him from behind the wooden counter. He explains he wants to sell items, and she automatically assumes he is a hunter. He quickly clarifies that he is an unregistered, awakened civilian. Dahai kindly slides over a standard registration form and tells him to take his time. He looks at the questions and barely holds back a groan. He obviously cannot write down that he got this gear from a video game. But he must deal with it. Home repairs are incredibly expensive. Suddenly, a group of massive, intimidating men barges right into the small shop. They loudly greet Dahai, and our hero quietly glances over at them. The system promptly reveals that their actual combat statistics are absolutely pathetic. He cannot help but chuckle, realizing his divine system has zero filter when analyzing people. One thug mentions that Dahai is struggling, offering to help her out. He opens a metal briefcase while our boy tries to ignore his system. This blind god skill is auto-analyzing absolutely everything. He accidentally locks eyes with them and immediately looks back down. Unwanted information keeps popping up right in front of him. When he finally looks up, Dahai is staring directly at the armor they brought in. She is genuinely excited, but the blind god eye reveals the harsh truth. The chestplate is old, poorly made junk with a cheap illusion spell. It will only look shiny for a couple of hours. Dahai, however, is totally oblivious. The main thug confidently demands 300 million. Dahai hesitates, then reluctantly agrees. The man wears a greedy smirk. That is when our hero steps in, calling out the fake item. He warns her to cancel. Inside, though, he is absolutely terrified. He knows he just invited serious trouble. The thugs glare, and one instantly grabs his collar while two others flash their skills as a sad attempt to intimidate him, but the game suggests melting the armor using his crushing index finger ability, so he does it, and the metal dissolves instantly. Seeing this, one guy completely loses his temper and throws a wild punch, but before it reaches him, another man bows down and apologizes as if our hero is some terrifying, untouchable powerhouse. The three of them quickly scatter and run off. Once they are gone, Dahai thanks our hero warmly, assuming he must be some legendary hermit, one of those mysterious awakened rankers who avoid the spotlight and live a quiet life. He just mutters under his breath because he has absolutely no way of explaining the truth. She then remembers he came to trade, so he hands over the druid's ring he pulled from the game. After appraising it, she reveals the energy inside is nearly depleted, labeling it a D-rank item. He recalls how even that fake armor had more magical energy left inside. Suddenly, the game interrupts again, suggesting that the smartest choice is to hand the ring over to someone nearby, and who might that be? It is Mirai, the mysterious observer who has been tailing our hero this entire time. The moment she sees him stroll into the trading shop, acting like he didn't almost kiss death just a few hours ago, she is completely baffled. Her first thought is that he must have chugged some high-grade potion, but she remembers his weak G-rank status and immediately feels ridiculous because if he had access to anything high-grade, he definitely not be living this struggling lifestyle. That leaves her with only one logical theory: what if he is secretly way stronger than he lets on, and if he can actually spot her so easily and heal up like it's nothing, then maybe he is the key to helping her finally break past her limits. When the men in the shop begin to leave, Mirai ducks behind a corner, realizing she looks exactly like what she is, a complete stalker. She already imagines the scolding her sister would give her if she gets caught. While she is spiraling, our hero suddenly interrupts her. Just a little while later, Mirai is completing another ability test. This time, lightning erupts as if trying to make a statement. 7,000 mana points, confirming her official rise to a rank status. Even she freezes, knowing full well the ring is the secret behind this massive glow-up. A few hours before this dramatic moment, our hero had rushed up, shoved the ring into her hand, yelled for her to take it, and immediately sprinted away. Now, President Haywin happily applauds her new rank. Her sister, Semina, remains completely unimpressed. To her, Mirai is still just a standard A rank. Meanwhile, Yu Yun is genuinely happy for Mirai, suggesting they team up for raid sometime, but Semina cuts him off and warns her not to even dream about taking revenge on monsters, or she will personally crush those foolish dreams. Mirai just apologizes silently because she fully intends to ignore that warning, since our hero helped her push past the wall she had been stuck behind forever. That impossible revenge suddenly feels within reach. Meanwhile, our hero is busy dealing with his own brand of uninvited chaos at 3 a.m. He is trapped in a terrifying nightmare wherein Emperor of the Insect Kingdom orders his red ant general, Kamakiri, to lead an entire army to punish the deity worshipped by the Black Tribe, the same god who completely wiped out Hibiscus and his troops without breaking a sweat, General Kamakiri. He accepts the order. Our boy snaps awake, heart pounding, trying to figure out If he just had a nightmare or somehow tuned into an insect horror. Documentary, he is still sitting in his burnt apartment with the massive hole in the wall. Somehow the place looks even more tragic than before. From experience, he knows this dream is definitely not just a fantasy. The last time he dreamt about ants, they nearly tore him to pieces. Now the nightmare is showing not dozens or hundreds, but hundreds of thousands marching toward him. Just then his phone buzzes. The sender's name is silently creeping. Nightmare. They ask if he wants power, which already sounds like a trap, but our guy tries to act rational for once and asks who they are. They demand an offering of 100 humans, preferably his own relatives. He obviously explodes at this, curses them out, and prepares to block the number. The sender panics instantly. Right then, the Eye of the Blind God activates on its own, popping open a screen window right in front of him, showing Kamakiri planning to rip out our hero's eyes and take his head as a lovely little tribute for their emperor. The window vanishes as quickly as it appeared, leaving him sitting there in pure dread. He remembers Kamakiri from his dream and checks the countdown for the ant's arrival. 4 days left. Meanwhile, in the game world, the Saintess and her followers are practically shaking with fear as they prepare for the Imperial army. Our boy realizes that panicking won't solve anything, so it's time. He starts preparing for survival. After that, he drags himself to the bathroom to test the Eye of the Blind God on his own stats. The skill refuses at first, which irritates him way more than it should. When it finally does activate, all it does is insult him. He curses the skill for having the emotional support of a malfunctioning toaster. He returns to his room and, after buying everything he needs from the shop, he scrolls through other items and notices something called Gay Henna's firework. He buys it, checking it with his condemning middle finger skill. Discovering it is literally just a lighter someone slapped a dramatic name on. The description claims it is amazing when combined with the middle finger skill, but he knows he's been scammed. He starts to regret not throwing his phone off the bridge. At that exact moment, his phone decides to ruin his peace by buzzing with a message from his manager. Apparently, it's already been a whole week since he handed in the manuscript. Although the manager knows about his recent accident, the company is not exactly in a patient mood. To make things even worse, he already accepted advanced payment, so our guy sends a quick apology. The manager replies that he is trusting him, realizing he needs another dose of that growth potion he tried earlier. Our hero decides one bottle won't even scratch the surface of his problems, so he decides to go for 20 this time. After forcing them down, his assimilation bumps to 10% and the title Benevolent Savior attaches itself to him, which is funny considering how he currently looks. Nothing like anyone's savior. Morning eventually rolls around and he wakes up with empty potion bottles, drooling and barely conscious, but the manuscript is finally finished. Meanwhile, outside the building, Mary is making her way toward his place with a cake in hand. She stands at the entrance, suddenly questioning every life decision that brought her here. Standing at a guy's apartment while holding dessert, she's worried he'll think she is totally weird for knowing his address, and since she needs a favor, she is trying incredibly hard not to look like a stalker. After giving herself a quick pep talk, she steps inside, heads up the stairs, and reaches his door. Mary rings the bell, waits like a civilized person, and gets absolutely nothing but silence. Naturally, she assumes he is not home. She tries the doorknob just to check, and it's completely unlocked. Then she steps inside only to find the place empty. Meanwhile, somewhere much more stressful, our hero's manager is having a total meltdown. The deadline is long gone, and our boy has not turned in a single page. Right as the man prepares to accept his tragic fate, our hero strolls right in, dumping a massive stack of papers on the desk while acting like he deserves applause. The manager practically tears up from seeing all that work, while our boy just flashes a proud smile. They even head out to celebrate over dinner like they literally just saved the company. But wait, this whole fantasy collapses immediately because none of that actually happened. In reality, our hero is tied to a chair in some shabby warehouse, sleeping peacefully like a baby with absolutely zero clue that he's been kidnapped. His captors, a trio of those same geniuses from the trading shop, just stare at him, wondering why their hostage is currently having a full restaurant dream. He is mumbling food orders like he's browsing a menu, which actually creeps them out more than anything else. They back away, wondering if they accidentally kidnapped an actual crazy person. Our hero finally wakes up, looks around, and quickly realizes he has indeed been taken, right in front of him. The three crooks are getting ready to fight. One guy sparks up his fire power, amazed that our boy somehow managed to sleep through this. Right at that moment, the eye of the blind god activates and reveals the embarrassing truth. This fire user is basically just playing with weak sparklers, and the other two are no better. Our hero also realizes these are the exact same scammers who targeted Dahai earlier. Once they see he knows who they are, they demand cash for the shop trouble. But our hero calmly tells them that he doesn't even have his phone right now. So the buff guy pulls out his own phone, and of course, that is the exact moment the game triggers the ant army's arrival. Guess what? They're already here. Our hero starts screaming for them to untie him and throw the phone away. Naturally, they ignore him. A second later, a massive wave of red ants bursts right out of the screen, completely swarming the guy holding it. He screams for help, but they devour him alive right on the spot. Then the ants organize like tiny soldiers, just waiting for their next target. The surviving two kidnappers instantly panic, assuming our boy is some kind of monster bug commander, but our hero can see the ants' actual stats, while the others only see normal insects. The fire user tries to roast them, completely defying the game's low rating. His fiery power is actually surprisingly strong, enough to make our tied-up hero break a sweat. But right before he can turn those ants into grilled meat, he suddenly collapses. Our boy and the last remaining kidnapper stare in total disbelief, noticing that the ants have literally built an entire miniature catapult. The last guy makes. He runs straight for the exit, but the door refuses to open. This instantly reminds the hero of the time he was trapped inside his own apartment. Meanwhile, Kamakiri gives the signal. The catapult launches, throwing that poor guy right out of the picture. Now the hero is left completely shaken. If even that powerful fire ability could not wipe out these monsters, he has absolutely no clue how he is supposed to survive. He curses the game. Every disaster leads back here. Circles right back to it. Kamakiri turns toward him, ready to finish the job and drag him to the Emperor. Just when it looks like the hero is about to get crushed, a sudden miracle changes the entire game. Lightning snaps through the air. Miri makes her grand entrance. Miri starts blasting the ants, and Kamakiri completely loses her mind. She is convinced the hero has committed an unforgivable crime by disrespecting the Emperor's grand army, and what makes it even worse, he didn't even step up to fight. Instead, he summoned a ridiculously strong subordinate. In Kamakiri's mind, that terrifying powerhouse is Miri, but in reality, Miri is just Miri. Honestly, let her run with this wild fantasy. Kamakiri builds an entire theory that the hero is basically the absolute final boss of the universe, someone who would overthrow the empire and challenge the gods. Knowing she is doomed, she boldly makes it her ultimate mission to take Miri down with her. Meanwhile, Miri is only now beginning to realize that there are way too many bugs around, while the hero is just standing there. The background, completely unaware he looks exactly like an evil god. Kamakiri thinks he is enjoying the show, which only makes things worse. The other ants scream at Kamakiri to get out of the way before Miri's attack hits her. But she ignores them, turning to her devastating heavenly blade instead. She begs the weapon to grant her power, the sword staying true to Its ruthless personality demands sacrifices, so Kamakiri offers the heads of every Imperial soldier under her command, before the ants can even react. Something strikes instantly, every single one of them drops dead. Miri and the hero watch. An entire army collapse in seconds, leaving only Kamakiri standing in the quiet. The hero is completely horrified, though absolutely not for the reason most people would be. He is shocked that Kamakiri is literally murdering her own loyal troops. Then, the eye of the blind god alerts him that Kamakiri has now aimed that deadly heavenly blade onto Miri. Kamakiri lunges, determined to avenge the supposed disgrace to her emperor. Miri charges her lightning, but even she is stunned by her speed. Miri fires a massive barrage of lightning, but Kamakiri easily slices right through the storm. She jumps, again aiming the blade straight at Miri, while the hero desperately screams for Kamakiri to stop. Once the blinding dust finally settles, he sees Miri on the ground. Kamakiri then turns her gaze to him, ready for another round. That is when he finally snaps. The game suddenly announces that the hero has glimpsed his own grim fate through a mysterious vision called the Sleepy Crawling Nightmare. Apparently, it is a nightmare that has not happened yet, but definitely will happen, and also might not happen. Basically, the system is just talking in incredibly confusing riddles, trying to sound profound. All the hero cares about is that things are now. The third time Miri almost dies protecting him, the game drops a massive question. Real question: he can rewrite mortal destiny using divine authority. For 100,000 gold, he accepts instantly. Time rewinds and his entire fate rewires itself. The moment resets right before Kamakiri lands the final blow. Miri braces for death, but the chains on our boy snap open as he catches her just in time. He looks completely different now, his eyes glowing, anger radiating off him. He checks on Miri while Kamakiri charges once more. But he unleashes the condemning middle finger of God, firing a massive blast that tears through the warehouse. Kamakiri disappears in the explosion, but even while burning, she stays loyal to her emperor until her final moments. As the flames fade, a tiny blade drops to the floor. Our boy picks it up and examines it while Miri watches him, realizing once again why she wants him as her master. But then he feels the heat and immediately starts acting scared, and Miri just stares at him. After everything that went down, our guy and Miri has finally made her way back to his apartment, clutching a trowel. And before he can even open his mouth, she confidently tells him to step aside and leave the repairs to her. He tries to reason with her gently, firmly, politely, using every approach he can think of, but she is already picking up cement bags with the kind of energy most people reserve for the gym. A few hours before this renovation crisis, our hero was simply trying to recall where he last saw that knife. Miri, however, takes that tiny detail and sprints straight into her own dramatic conclusions, convinced he must be some mysterious hermit-style expert hiding a legendary past. He notices that she is completely misunderstanding everything, so he tries to clear things up, but she suddenly drops to her knees, begging him to accept her as his loyal disciple, and swearing she will repay him however she possibly can. He knows he should absolutely say no, but by the time they are back at his half-destroyed apartment, he just gives up on the chaos and sits down with his laptop. Miri, of course, parks herself right beside him. He turns to her and clarifies again that he never agreed to train her, only wanting to know how long she plans on staying in his apartment like an enthusiastic house guest. She beams and claims she will stay until he finally gives in and teaches her. He mentally dissolves into a puddle of frustration, trying to explain that he is just a completely normal guy, a literal G rank, basically the lowest rung on the ladder, but she insists the ring he gave her is what made her strong. He lies that he just found it on the road. She clearly understands what he is trying to say, but she still quietly and sincerely asks him to at least give her a shot at making up for her earlier mistakes. back in the present, Miri finishes the apartment repairs like she is running some secret interior design. Business on the side, she did not just patch up the broken wall, she also installed some nice-looking wallpaper. Our boy stares at it, deeply impressed and maybe questioning his own life skills for a brief moment, but before he can admire the results for too long, he hears a loud rumble for half a second. He wonders if a storm rolled in, until he realizes the storm is coming from Miri's stomach, which is currently making loud hunger noises. Our boy, feeling guilty for starving her after all that manual labor, he suggests ordering some food. She happily chooses black bean noodles, but right then her phone buzzes with an emergency call, making her rush out like a busy superhero who never gets a break. He quickly stops her and purchases a growth potion. From the game, the bottle pops out of his phone for Mirai. She freezes because in her world, only the legendary Kang Wu can do this. He has no idea who that is and just tells her to drink up. She drinks the potion and leaps straight out the window. He heads out to grab his own dinner, finally hoping for some quiet. Inside the diner, the television is blaring. A massive rift just opened up downtown. An S-rank Drake escaped. People whisper, but he ignores them. He just wants a quiet meal. Suddenly, the news anchor reports that a lone hunter arrived early to buy time for the panicking civilians. Naturally, since his life is a complete mess, that brave hunter is Mirai herself. He immediately chokes on his soup. Everyone is terrified because a single fighter cannot stop an S-rank beast. Alone, especially with official association backup still miles away. Live footage shows the giant dragon destroying buildings while she evacuates people. Even she looks shocked to face such a powerful threat. She pauses, suddenly remembering Mina warning her not to be reckless. The Drake strikes. Mirai barely leaps clear, forcing herself to stay calm. She shoots lightning directly into the beast. The dragon drops. The reporter quickly claims she won. The crowd celebrates and she smiles, but the nightmare is not over. The creature stands right back up and lashes out at her. She gets hit hard, remembering the warning. Then she sees the bottle. That weird growth potion is still in her pocket. The Drake turns. Mirai chugs it. Golden light explodes. Shimmering yellow energy crackles around her body. She unleashes a devastating storm at the dragon. Back at the noodle shop, everyone is staring in total silence, completely mesmerized by her raw power. The anchor excitedly reports that the threat is officially eliminated. Watching this on screen, he cannot believe this legendary warrior is the same clumsy girl who begged a regular guy to train her. The television suddenly cuts to a live broadcast showing her smiling. She literally calls his phone on national television to celebrate. Mirai loudly credits the amazing growth potion her teacher gave her. Later, he sits at home, completely stunned. The girl who became a massive star in under 24 hours is currently sitting on his sofa, casually eating noodles like a tourist. She happily praises the delicious food and politely thanks her host. He awkwardly tells her to go home, assuming her parents are worried. But she quietly mentions that she has nobody waiting for her. He stares in disbelief, wondering how any parent could ignore her. Then she quietly says her parents passed away. He still vividly remembers the Hell Dragon incident, that absolute nightmare of an event. Back then, the entire world had to unite their strength just to stop that single monster. Millions of lives were lost, and he mentally facepalms for bringing up her trauma. Desperate to make amends, he quickly offers Muri another bowl of noodles, which she gladly accepts. She keeps happily eating. Just then, the system alerts him with surprising news. His stats updated. He officially boosted Muri's trust and affection. If she declares faith in the one true God, his faith system activates. Is this a dating sim? He wonders if the game is secretly a joke. But his inner greed wakes up, reminding him of some very tempting rewards. Those lovely gold coins from the Saintess make faith activation look quite tempting. Faith activation suddenly sounds much more attractive, honestly, with that ant army crashing into his life whenever they feel like it. Collecting extra coins seems pretty responsible. He asks Muri for a small favor, and she immediately agrees to help out. She doesn't even bother to ask what it is, so he begins explaining. He recites the cringy line the game wants, but physically shudders halfway through. He immediately starts apologizing, but she still repeats the bizarre words with absolute ease. The system announces that Faith is activated, and Muri is registered as his follower. His total follower count suddenly jumps to 1,102. Our boy, however, is too busy pouting about how he did not get a single gold coin. Checking again, he discovers a brand new ability called Skillshare that lets him borrow powers. Currently, the only available skills he can borrow are those belonging to Muri. He skims it and quickly moves on, still grumbling about his missing gold coins. Muri just watches him quietly, completely baffled by his bizarre and dramatic reaction. Suddenly, a few giant insects show up and recognize him as the evil god. Sent as envoys by their emperor, they have come to grant him the divine throne. The ruler wants to use his monstrous strength in the upcoming Great War. Meanwhile, our main character is still busy complaining about how scammy the system is. But since he can now trigger lightning storm anytime, he is willing to test it. He decides to let the game fool him once more, mostly out of curiosity. He activates the skill, and naturally, it instantly goes completely out of control. Right on cue, a massive blast explodes through the room in spectacular fashion. It roasts the ant envoys alive and blows chunks of his apartment wall away. A furious neighbor from across the street screams about the noise in the night. But Muri does not care about the noise, utterly amazed by his power. She just stares in awe as he casually produces massive currents of electricity. Meanwhile, he starts crying while calculating the absurd cost of rebuilding his wall. Back in the game world, the Emperor learns his envoys were ruthlessly vaporized. Furious, he immediately takes out his blinding rage on the poor grasshopper servant. The grasshopper is blamed since sending those envoys was his bright idea initially. Before the messenger can defend itself, a rain of sharp arrows strikes it down. It is a clean execution by the ruler's loyal subordinate. Still fuming, the Emperor demands our hero's head. The next morning, Muri is out, running laps like she is trying to qualify for a national team. She isn't even using her special abilities. He hands her another growth potion, telling her to take a break while marveling at how perfectly it works. It didn't do a thing for him, but since he accepted her as his disciple, he decides he needs to actually contribute. After all, his biggest achievement so far is just handing her potions and calling it teaching, so he orders her to keep doing squats while wondering if the eye of the blind god can help him design a proper training plan. He activates it right in the middle of her set and gets pulled straight into her inner world. Suddenly, he stands before a massive leopard-like beast. Bound by heavy chains, the game system kindly reveals that this is actually Mirai's true form, locked away by S rank chains for 10 long years. That is when it clicks. She was not just growing stronger out of nowhere, and get this, she was S rank from the start. The seal briefly cracking in front of the horned rhino happened because of the crushing finger of the god. Turns out it works like a remote control. Naturally, he decides to shatter those chains himself. Later, as the sun sets, Mirai thanks him for the lesson and rockets away at lightning speed. He just stands there, wondering what kind of monster she will become once the seal fully breaks, because her power right now already defies logic. He also realizes that he only managed to snap a single chain earlier, and starts wondering who sealed her in the first place. Definitely not him. But he files that massive headache under problems for his future self. Meanwhile, the bystanders who saw her blast off are frozen in pure shock. And lurking in the crowd, a masked figure silently watches him. When he finally heads back home, reality delivers a swift punch to the face. The place still looks like a tornado decided to move in. And he has absolutely zero gold to pay for repairs, but before he can even start stressing, the system pings him with an alert from a blocked contact. It is Creeping Nightmare, apparently staring at him with miserable eyes. He instantly remembers blocking the guy for being way too weird. Before he can finish regretting his life choices, the heavenly blade also pops up, glaring resentfully. He recognizes it as that dramatic fruit knife-obsessed master from the warehouse. Naturally, the blade gets immediately offended and insists it is no kitchen knife, but a divine weapon that can slice gods like vegetables. He is not impressed. Then the horrifying truth dawns on him. They are both reading his thoughts. Great, just great, supernatural stalkers with live access to his brain. Instantly, they both begin nagging. Creeping Nightmare begs to be unblocked while the heavenly blade demands its sword back. Our guy snaps, remembering how that exact weapon almost got him killed. The blade, trying to save face, suddenly offers to return the 2 million gold coins from the Imperial Army, which only makes him angrier. Because that means the weapon was not just dramatic, it was a thief. Creeping Nightmare cuts in, laughing, and offers him 10 million gold coins to just hand the sword over. Suddenly, he sees a bright future ahead, filled with shiny system upgrades, potions for Mirai, and maybe even a fully repaired apartment, the Heavenly Blade. He panics, trying to one-up the bid by revealing a unique ability, Zenith of the sword. It is a cheat-level authority our guy can now easily surpass sword masters across worlds. Not to be outdone, Creeping Nightmare counters immediately. He offers his own unique authority, Night Blooming Rose, promising our guy no more exhaustion or smelling like a loser of a brutal wrestling match. Naturally, our hero fully embraces his inner greed and asks for more. Heavenly Blade breaks first. He throws in the zenith of the sword 2 million gold coins and 3 highly valuable heavenly treasury coupons. Creeping Nightmare hands over his authority too. Now he wonders what these shiny new skills actually do. He tries Night Blooming Rose first, calls out the name, and waits. Absolutely nothing happens, not a spark. Turns out it only works while sleeping. Naturally, he almost throws something across the room. How on earth is he supposed to test this when he is completely unconscious? He quickly blames himself for trusting a stalker. Next up, Zenith of the Sword. It also seems pretty useless until it suddenly triggers. Something deep inside flips, turning him into a slashing maniac. He literally sprints down the street, holding a kitchen knife like he is in some chaotic cooking competition. Night Falls, a local restaurant, is wrapping things up. The husband complains about having to chop vegetables, but his wife just points. Someone inside is chopping at lightning speed, like his salary depends on it. Unsurprisingly, their unpaid worker is our guy, still completely trapped in sword frenzy mode. Eventually, he staggers back home. He is genuinely traumatized by the mere sight of his kitchen knife. He collapses onto his mattress, swearing to never activate that skill again. His body matches his exhaustion. He has never worked out this hard. But little does he know, the Emperor's assassin army is silently waiting. They belong to the Blood Tribe, led by the ruthless Killing Lord, who wants his head to climb the ranks of the 10 Swords. But right before they strike, Night Blooming Rose finally activates because our hero is fully unconscious. The gentle rose blooms into a massive, monstrous form. The Killing Lord instantly recognizes this glowing, terrifying flower, because her entire bloodline has collective, deep-seated trauma from this plant. She once read about its history in the ancient records of her kin, and she knows exactly what this creature is, the silently creeping nightmare. God, the most horrifying existence in the universe, and this very rose once wiped out nearly 90% of their kind thousands of years ago. So unsurprisingly, she is absolutely terrified to see it blooming before her. Still, she commands her army not to panic and charges ahead fearlessly. Her bees muster their remaining courage and follow her lead immediately. They aim for the body of the rose, carefully avoiding the stem. But that monstrous stem casually splits open, revealing a giant, hungry mouth. That chomps down on them. The killing lord ignores her army's screams. She already realized that killing this young man is a total impossibility. The guy is practically protected by divine cheat-level nonsense, so she changes. Her goal: she will drag the nightmare god's apostle down with her. She faces something terrifying and fires an arrow straight at the massive stem. The stem swallows that too. Furious and desperate, she fights on but ultimately perishes. It is a brutal end. Meanwhile, Il-shin is enjoying the most peaceful sleep ever. He has no idea the bizarre plant on his chest is staging a horror movie. When morning finally arrives, Il-shin wakes up feeling incredibly bloated and heavy. It is like he feasted on an endless dream buffet. Suddenly, his phone starts vibrating like crazy. The desperate saintess and her loyal tribe are begging him for salvation once more. He panics, wondering if they caught a plague or committed some absolute stupidity. Knowing them both are highly likely, he quickly activates the Eye of the Blind God. He sees the entire tribe poisoned by a deadly toxin from the killer beeson. He instantly assumes these idiots tried to steal honey and raided some giant beehives. He frantically Googles how to save dying ants, praying they do not kick the bucket. The system interrupts with a notification. His deep concern has unlocked a new function. The miracle menu is active, proving divine power has its own perks. With this God package, the specific miracle he chooses determines their reaction. They will either worship his grace or shake with absolute terror. Healing is available. But cure requires divine power and 100,000 God coins. He instantly clicks buy. Having plenty of cash, he is honestly too exhausted to care about the heavy cost. The system consumes his hard-earned funds, announcing it requires a unique material. It draws power from the world tree fruit he recently absorbed. Il-shin panics. But before he can even process this, sudden exhaustion hits him like a truck. While he is completely knocked out, the system triggers a series of major updates. His benevolent savior title ranks up from E to D, shifting his alignment to neutral. Even some higher deities, like the goddess of endless abundance, start watching him. Inside the game, the dying saintess and her tribe are coughing up blood. Clinging to life, she prays desperately for a miracle. Suddenly, the sky glows. A gentle, golden rain begins to pour down, instantly cleansing the lethal poison. The villagers rejoice, chanting their god's holy name in pure adoration. The saintess reminds the crowd that their savior expects proper devotion and ultimate faith now. They eagerly agree. Sometime later, back in the real world, Il-shin finally stirs. He slowly blinks awake and checks the time. His sleepy brain is still processing. When he spots Mirai sitting casually on his couch like she owns the place. Since he completely missed their scheduled training session, she decided to drop by. He mutters an apology. She then gestures toward a truly bizarre statue nearby and demands to know what it is. Il-shin stares, baffled, because it literally appeared out of nowhere. He quickly opens the system app to investigate. It turns out the object is a sacred carving sent by the Black Tribe out of overwhelming, fanatical gratitude. The system description bluntly calls the sculpture hideous, which is harsh but accurate. It is definitely not a masterpiece. He starts to panic for two reasons. First, because the thing is hideous, and second, because the system suggests he shares its looks. Surprisingly, Mirai finds it absolutely adorable, claiming it resembles him perfectly. She asks if she can keep it, and he numbly agrees. He smiles blankly, seriously questioning if his friend needs an eye exam. After she departs, he tries to focus on his writing, but peace never lasts. The screen flashes, warning him that the saintess and her people are facing. They sent him a world tree sprout, newly sprouted thanks to his recent miracle. But the little sprout is sickly. It might die within a single day. He tries using the growth god's special protection, but absolutely nothing works. Remembering how that magical fruit healed him instantly, a little greed starts to creep in. If he can actually grow this thing properly, those fruits will make him rich. What an incredibly noble and selfless thought, right? He checks the hunter shop and finds a legendary item. The tears of endlessly granting abundance are there, but there is a major catch. Only someone with a genuinely good nature can actually buy this item. If he fails the goddess's special quest, his hard-earned coins will vanish forever. Next thing we know, our guy is outside picking up random cigarette butts off the pavement. He can't believe this is how he has to save a sickly tree. After all that painful manual labor, his goodwill rises by exactly one single point. He still needs a massive mountain of points, and this is taking way too long. Suddenly, a grumpy old man appears, out of nowhere. The stranger demands to know why he is invading his precious personal territory. He looks completely homeless, but somehow he also looks extremely familiar. Knowing how fiercely these guys guard their territory, our hero tries to offer him cash. But Choi Gangan is immediately insulted, and that is when our hero remembers. This is no random street dweller. The man is actually a legendary S-rank hunter. Even so, Gangan quietly pockets the cash anyway, while acting completely unbothered. Our hero checks his system screen, hoping for a quick goodwill boost. Absolutely nothing happens. His points are completely stuck at the exact same level. Apparently, giving cash to a wealthy, drunk hunter doesn't count as charity. Then our guy accidentally calls him grandpa, and instant regret hits him. He quickly backtracks, calling him big brother, and asks him to toss his trash. Gangan absolutely loves the respect, bursting out into a hearty laugh. He slaps our hero's back so hard the poor guy almost coughs up his soul. The S-rank asks for his guild, but our boy just chokes out that he is freelance. Just then, a deep rumble shakes the street, signaling a sudden monster attack. Instantly, the crowd panics, complete chaos as the news spreads. It is wild how fast everyone suddenly remembers they have plans. They all run for their lives like their living rooms are calling them. Honestly, our boy thinks heading home sounds like a brilliant idea. But before he can take a single step, Gangan grabs him tightly. No questions asked, he just drags our hero along. The poor guy tries explaining that he is completely fine on his own. He is fully capable of walking home without being carried like luggage. But Gangan just ignores him and launches straight into the sky. They fly so high that our hero's soul basically leaves his physical body. By the time they finally touch down, the poor kid is completely knocked out. Gangan drops him onto the ground, looking absolutely stunned at the pathetic sight. He genuinely believed our main character was at least B rank. Clearly, he gave the poor kid far too much credit. Then Gangan spots the nearby monster, and though weak, it will have to do. Just a quick warm-up, but unfortunately, the creature recognizes our hero as the supreme evil god, wanting to offer him as a master tribute. It tells Gangan to move aside, but Gangan just punches it in the face. Meanwhile, the night-blooming rose senses pure hostility aimed at its beloved owner and activates again. Gangan and the monster instantly freeze like two people who just realized the cute houseplant on the table is actually carnivorous alien horror, right in the middle of all this chaotic madness. Our hero finally wakes up. For a second, he sees the glowing saintess, like some gorgeous divine vision, but then it fades, leaving him lying right where he originally collapsed. He sees Gangan lying on the ground, drenched in some mysterious foul-smelling sludge. He takes one quick sniff and wonders if Gangan somehow fell into a sewer. Honestly, nothing would surprise him at this point. Then the game congratulates him for promoting world peace by defeating a servant of the supreme evil god, making him a literal part-time savior on top of his regular duties. Somehow, he also exceeded the quest requirements and obtained a divine item called Tears of the endlessly granting abundance. With this legendary loot, the dying world tree sprout will finally heal. Our hero practically glows with pure happiness. He can almost smell his future profits drifting in with the wind. The system also praises him for reviving the world tree and setting the stage for the Black Tribe to make their grand comeback. He would gladly do a quick victory dance right now if he was not so distracted by Gangan crying out for his mother like a scared little child. The system casually adds that since our hero is the center of the tribe's worship, he gets stronger as they prosper. A rescue team finally arrives, whisking Gangan away. Our hero assumes this means the absurd events are finally over, but of course not. Just when he thinks he can breathe, the game pops up again, saying the Black Tribe has built another monument of him as tribute. Meanwhile, President Haywin receives updates that Gangan took care of the monster effortlessly despite basically being retired. He is now in the hospital but has absolutely zero physical wounds. His loyal assistant then reports that Gangan had a panic attack when shown flowers, which makes total sense, since the poor man witnessed that terrifying nightmare rose erupt out of our hero and warp reality. Naturally, President Haywin assumes this is just a basic flower allergy. He quickly moves on to their upcoming Hunter Academy project. According to his assistant, everything is fully ready, and they will start once Gangan recovers. Haywin wants Gangan to mentor Miri, clearly believing they will make an exceptional power duo. Our hero, on the other hand, returns to his flat only to be greeted by absolute visual trauma. Two naked statues of himself are just standing there like some highly cursed home decor. To him, neither sculpture looks even remotely like him at all. Suddenly, he receives a direct message from the Saintess. The system explains that thanks to those crazy statues, his global rapport has increased to 10%. He cannot believe he has officially hit a point where he is basically texting with tiny ants. The Saintess begs him to save them, their suffering tribe. He notices the ants bowing respectfully, except for one, who is trembling violently. The game explains these ants are Black Tribe members, recently targeted by brutal demon beasts. Hearing this, our hero immediately gets incredibly furious at the audacity of anything hurting his loyal worshippers and demands they lead him straight to the beasts so he can crush them personally. The Saintess and the others instantly start praising him, practically singing his hymns, but he realizes he went a bit too dramatic, quickly toning his attitude down before he starts sounding like some actual wrathful deity. The ants begin guiding him through the forest, though with their tiny size compared to his, it is taking forever. As they march onward, he notices the Saintess trembling more than usual. Then he himself freezes, staring. The creatures ahead are enormous, completely revolting cockroaches. According to the game, these are demon beasts summoned by the cockroach beast master from the demon world. They multiply every single hour, and there is exactly 1 second left before they double again. The ants completely lose their collective minds the moment they realize they are surrounded by these cockroach beasts. Panic spreads like wildfire. They squeak, tremble mentally, preparing their final wills. In their tiny minds, death is already tapping them on the shoulder. Quite a few even look ready to bolt for the horizon, but the Saintess tries to restore order, reminding them that their God, our guy, is right there with them. Their mighty protector is ready and right on cue. Our guy sprints away, screaming like his entire soul is fleeing his body. The ants freeze, staring after him. You can practically hear their tiny hearts cracking. From their point of view, their divine guardian took one good look at the enemy and decided to run. Just like that, their sanity officially leaves the chat. Meanwhile, far away in the Emperor's palace, an insect proudly vows to drag our hero's corpse back soon, as those summoned demon beasts are already moving in to kill him. The Emperor coldly reminds the insect that failure equals death. Suddenly, a grasshopper servant bursts in with urgent news. The Grand Magician cockroaches summoned beasts have multiplied into hundreds of millions, but something strange has happened. Back in the forest, the mystery is incredibly simple: standard cockroach killer spray. Our hero had found some in his apartment because naturally he despises cockroaches on a deep spiritual level, so he sprinkled the stuff everywhere. Now every single pest lies dead. Meanwhile, the ants have taken up the role of diligent funeral workers, tidying up the battlefield. Our guy then notices the saintess standing miserably. She eventually breaks down completely, crying her eyes out, deeply regretting even a second of doubting his pure-hearted nature, claiming she no longer deserves to serve him, and melodramatically begs him to end her life. He awkwardly tries to calm her down, but before he can convince her he is not about to smite her, the game interrupts. Because he has fulfilled the requirements to unlock a unique new authority, the proliferating thumb of God. It costs 100 coins, and the description honestly sounds like some dramatic heroic daydream. He decides to check, asking to meet. A short while later, they are sitting together sharing drinks. He quickly notices the manager staring with absolute creepy intensity, like an X-ray. Then the heavy interrogation begins. Why is his writing progress so incredibly slow? Since the manager is totally drunk, the lecture quickly spirals. It becomes a messy ramble about trust and loyalty. He panics. The manager starts screaming loud enough for the whole room to hear. Everyone tunes in for free entertainment. To make it worse, the boss curses him out. He rants about how he causes trouble and makes everyone walk on emotional eggshells. He hates this. Then right on cue, the game pops up. It warns him that vicious demon beasts are actively attacking the Black Tribe. The screen politely asks if he wants to expand the tribe for defense. Our boy is completely checked out. He just gives a quick thumbs up, do whatever. But seeing him playing games, the furious manager completely loses it. He smacks a loose lettuce leaf right onto his face. They bicker. The restaurant staff tries and fails to restore any real dignity to the scene. Inside the game world, the saint activates a powerful ritual to destroy the demon beasts, sending blessings down to him. Meanwhile, half drunk and utterly exhausted, our main character is stumbling home. The notifications keep flashing. The beast of disaster has been completely exterminated, rewarding him with shiny white god coins. Better yet, the god of endless abundance now has a highly positive impression of him, offering a special sponsorship. Since he has savior rank privilege, he can choose any authority he desires, and the god will pay for it. Seriously, they will foot the bill. Naturally, he picks the absolute most expensive option available on the entire list: the transcendent god's exclusive authority, the legendary creation of heaven and earth. It has countless zeros, but the system informs him that his current level is way too low to wield the real thing, so it scales it down to a false creation version, a one-time use. Instantly, the world begins to shift. Meanwhile, inside Mina's house, she finishes her evening bath and notices her sister staring out the window. Miri is not alone either. Gangan and several other hunters outside are also gazing straight up across the city. President Haihon, Yo Hyun, and Kang Woo all raise their heads too. A second sun has suddenly appeared right beside the moon. It is madness. In a much darker place, a naked man stands among several dead bodies. Only one terrified survivor remains. Shaking hard, the naked man complains that Miri is interfering with their guild master's plans and demands more sacrifices. Now, he vows to fulfill his deity's desire without fail, begging for salvation to finally descend upon this world. And right then, the bizarre second moon pops into the sky. Immediately, the entire solar system is thrown into total chaos. A pair of space exploration rockets lose signal, and one desperately reports that entering orbit is impossible. The controls simply stopped working. Morning arrives. In the real world, the news stations are completely panicking. The anchors look like they have been awake for 48 hours straight. They keep repeating how a second moon appearing overnight is enough to cause humanity a massive, collective panic attack. Nobody knows what this thing is. It glows gold at night and shifts to green during the day, just as experts warned. Warning that dungeons might explode, prompting the Hunter Association to take action. They are currently partnering with governments worldwide. Meanwhile, our hero is busy training outdoors. He trains Miri even though his head feels like a literal drum. Solo is playing inside. Miri proudly reports she finished her 500 laps. He tells her to switch to planks. She thinks he is planning something deep. But really, he just needs her to stay still so he can examine her mind. As she settles into position, he uses the eye of the blind god. Peeking inside her mind, he finds that strange, leopard-like creature waiting for him. Shockingly, the beast looks almost cute now, much better than before. Using the crushing index finger of God, he starts breaking its binding chains. Some chains shatter instantly while others hold. At least the beast stops attacking. Instead, it starts licking his hand like a friendly pet that finally found its manners. With that breakthrough done, he turns back to Miri, time to check her growth. Right on cue, the girl unleashes a crackling bolt of lightning. The strike is vastly more powerful now, and she happily credits his training. Nearby bystanders immediately panic, so he tells her to chill out before someone calls the cops. Miri thanks him politely and heads off to finish her last 200 laps. As she sprints around the field like her life depends on it, our hero checks his phone. A message from the saint is waiting. She is begging for a proper name, which he agrees she definitely needs. But naming things is not his strength. He briefly considers Baek Sunny. Then remembers his manager once called his naming sense an actual crime. Since she is an ant, he settles on Auntie. The saint is completely overjoyed. And naturally, the rest of the colony suddenly wants names too. If he names every single one, he will be stuck here until retirement. So he just assigns them numbers, 1, 2, 3, and so on. Back home, he notices his apartment is finally repaired. Time to melt into bed. But get this, the system suddenly interrupts him with breaking news. The saint and her believers have evolved from their recent battle experience. They have now become the Gayami race, and the system declares them cute. Suddenly, the system interface upgrades into a much sleeker design. It explains that his demon beast cockroach experience points are being converted, granting him 2 full level ups. Now he knows levels actually matter here. This triggers a civilization revival, shifting the game's forest once again. The saint watches this transformation with starry, awestruck eyes, absolutely convinced that she is witnessing yet another grand divine miracle. Their world is now more structured than a real modern city. With training grounds and neat layouts everywhere, the ants start worshipping him. He is completely overwhelmed and slightly panicked, but cannot stop their devotion. To make matters worse, they keep getting cuter, which really does not help. Checking the functions, he sees cultivation, construction, and one mysterious tab. It feels like a dare. Clicking it reveals the Tower of Warriors. The place is modeled after where the Eternal Seeker once trained. It only allows powerful challengers, devouring their blood and souls. Holds a survival rate so microscopic you would need a magnifying glass to even spot it. The ants stare directly at it and instantly freeze in absolute terror. Our hero imagines them wandering inside out of pure curiosity and starts panicking. He quickly removes the wall, blocking the entire entrance. He warns them in no uncertain terms to stay far away from it. The little ants immediately assume this makes him even more divine, one Gaia warrior. Though turns that terror into raw inspiration, he vows to get strong enough to protect his friends in the future. Meanwhile, back at the Imperial Palace, the desperate Archbishop is pleading with the Emperor for another shot, desperately boasting how he forged a dark contract with the Demon King, but the Emperor is not remotely amused and straight up executes him on the spot. Terrified servants try to calm things down, but he rages at them, calling them totally worthless for failing to handle simple ants. Then the cold priestess Arachne, one of his top 10 swords, steps in and instantly shifts the entire room's energy. She calmly reports her mission is finished, reassuring the ruler he is very close to breaking through from demigod to an actual god. She requests he leave worldly matters to her, urging him to focus entirely on his upcoming divine ascension. With absolute certainty, she promises that the Black Tribe ants and our protagonist will soon be completely wiped out. She heads straight to the Count of Arvampirism, Mosto, who is currently busy slaughtering someone. She demands that he make our hero pay for daring to cross the Empire, handing him a highly dangerous cursed needle from the foul plaguebringer. Her whole plan revolves around Mosto stabbing our main character with it, and honestly, since Mosto is basically a high-class, blood-sucking mosquito, the job fits him perfectly. He eagerly accepts the task, though he does make a small personal demand of his own. Meanwhile, our hero is back home, struggling on a completely different battlefield. Clacking on his keyboard, he is typing like a broken robot because his boss threatened that if he fails to meet his weekly quota, his work contract, an entire serialization will be cancelled, so he is hammering the keys like his actual life depends on it, while his exhausted brain begs for rest. His burning eyes are giving out, but he keeps muttering to himself that he only needs to complete this single chapter. Suddenly, his phone vibrates, breaking his work-induced trance. He looks at the screen to find the little ants resting peacefully like tiny, diligent babies. But wait, out of nowhere, a massive boulder nearby starts to shift. Turns out it is that motivated warrior, the same one who wanted to become much stronger, now lifting a stone twice his own size. Our hero is shocked, realizing that there is definitely something different about this particular ant. Activating the Eye of the Blind God, he discovers the warrior is named Iluo, dedicated combatant sworn to defend his tribe. Our boy finds it fascinating how this specific class developed unique traits post-evolution. Watching these little guys grow is honestly way more entertaining than the actual game by now. To help out, he hands Iluo a rare growth potion. The tiny warrior is completely overwhelmed with gratitude, deeply touched that a god actually noticed his efforts. With that task finished, our hero locks his phone and gets back to his soul-crushing writing session. Outside his window, Mosto is silently watching him. Earlier, he had asked Arachne if he could taste our hero's blood just out of curiosity. She readily allowed him to do whatever he pleased with his flesh, a decision she will absolutely regret later on, because what she fails to realize is that Mosto plans to drink the hero's blood to gain strength, overthrow the emperor, and take Arachne for himself. He sneaks into the room, buzzing around the exhausted guy, who is way too tired to notice. The hero is half asleep still, muttering about work deadlines, completely unaware a vampire mesquite hybrid is hovering nearby. Seizing the moment, Mosto drives a cursed needle straight into his forehead and begins draining his blood. The monster rejoices as power surges inside, but the sleeping hero suddenly feels a sharp sting and slaps his forehead on pure instinct. Checking his palm, he finds Mosto's squashed body in a smear of blood. He mutters about annoying bugs out of season. Right after, things go downhill fast. The poor guy shivers, sneezes, and coughs up thick phlegm. It is a pretty gross sight. Washing his face, he spots a strange mark on his forehead. The game system identifies it as a plague-bringer mark, warning that a terrible chill's curse has officially begun. More afflictions quickly pile on: fever, body aches, and absolute misery. He collapses, dragging his body across the floor like a wounded snail. Desperate, he opens the hunter shop to find medicine made by Hada, the legendary doctor. He buys it for relief, but gets a quest instead. He curses the system. Hospital comes first because he refuses to die here. But elsewhere, that naked man, Yan, assigns a follower a mission, calling it the divine will to purify this corrupted world. This loyal follower bears the exact same forehead mark as the protagonist, along with a vest of heavy explosives strapped under his jacket. He accepts the mission instantly. Meanwhile, the hero arrives at the hospital, barely able to stand because his stomach has joined the curse party. To survive, his quest demands he rescue 100 people, but he has only saved 10 so far. He literally crawls across the floor in agony. But inside the lobby, the crazed bomber is already holding hostages. He threatens the crowd with a nurse held close, while Mirai warns him to back off as she conjures a crackling lightning strike. Our hero stands in the crowd, utterly horrified by this sudden terrorism. Then the bomber spots the matching seal on the hero's forehead and assumes they are comrades. He calls him over to help out. The poor guy nearly faints. Being mistaken for a terrorist is the absolute worst. Even Mirai spots him in the chaos and begs him to help. He just freezes, terrified, confused, and completely unprepared for this mess. The fanatic keeps dragging him closer, insisting they must complete the mission. He rants about sacrificing themselves together, while the terrified hostage nurse sobs uncontrollably, clearly regretting every single life choice that led to this. Finally losing her temper, Mirai shouts for the bomber to stop. She loudly declares that the sick guy is actually her master. But the zealot refuses to believe her, pointing at that forehead mark, like it is some holy cult seal that marks them as brothers. To make matters worse, he begins screaming about evil energy leaking out. Hearing this, Mirai gets personally offended, and things are about to explode. Some random terrorist calls her teacher evil. No way, she prepares to fry him. Meanwhile, our main character is busy clinging to life as the curses inside him work overtime. He weakly begs Miri to help before he collapses, which is only a few seconds away, but Miri and the man keep arguing about his identity. The guy warns her not to try anything stupid. If she dares to attack, he will set off the bomb and let everyone see the results. He still cannot believe Miri is ruining his grand, dramatic plan to sacrifice everything with our hero. At that exact moment, the blind god's eye activates on him, dragging his consciousness into the man's memories. There he sees Kim Tabum being hypnotized by Yon. Yon tells him to perform the sacrifice in the most terrifying way possible to welcome the god of destruction. Tabum nods instantly, like he was waiting his whole life for someone to give him this ridiculous task. Our hero realizes one thing: if Tabum presses that button, everyone here is history. Terrifying thought. Tabum's thumb starts moving toward the detonator, and our hero knows time has run out. He uses the crushing index finger of the god to stop him, then glances at Miri so she can finish what he started. Tabum releases the nurse and Miri strikes him with lightning. The guy drops immediately, and so does our hero. His body finally throws in the towel after everything he put it through. Miri rushes to his side, calling his name repeatedly. Right then, the abominable plaguebringer announces that our boy's time has come. The game notifies him that the necrosis curse has activated, while Miri tries desperately to shake him awake. Meanwhile, over in the game world, Arachne's servant waits for her orders to poison our hero, but Arachne tells him not to bother. The plague god's curse definitely will not fail, according to her. The abominable plaguebringer is basically the clingiest entity in existence. Once he picks a target, he holds on like a jealous ex. Our hero, however, wakes up somewhere unfamiliar. He remembers the strange voices and the curse triggering, but he has no clue how he ended up in this random place. Suddenly, someone starts yelling at him for daring to challenge them. He turns around and sees a giant, monstrous entity. This is apparently the abominable plaguebringer, making him nearly jump out of his skin. The monster keeps ranting and ranting, and our hero cannot help thinking that for something so terrifying, it really likes to talk a lot. Then, the silently creeping nightmare arrives. Its presence alone is enough to terrify the plaguebringer into silence. At the same time, the game informs our hero that he saved more people than required for the quest. the owner of the medicinal book, is extremely pleased, and the effects of the Huati's pills begin spreading through him. He wakes up groggy, genuinely convinced he must be dreaming. There is something stuffed in his mouth. Miri is hovering right beside him, and suddenly his strength starts returning. The game also adds that he received some extra divine energy as a bonus. Meanwhile, a massive crowd gathers in the hospital, surrounding Miri for autographs. Our hero just waves, promises he will call later, and sneaks out. Yon watches everything unfold live. Guild leader insists the bomb was thoroughly checked, so Tabum must have. He messed up the job himself, but vows never to fail again. Meanwhile, Yan gives him 3 days to eliminate our hero and bring back his body. When the guild leader asks for the reason, Yan looks thoroughly disappointed. Apparently, this cluelessness is exactly why their god dislikes them so much. He explains that our hero shines like a radiant sun while they are merely useless insects. He even claims to see divine favor resting inside him. The guild leader might not understand, but he is certain of one thing. Yan has completely lost his mind. Back home, our hero is fully healed and feeling completely normal again. Suddenly, the game alerts him to a desperate message from Iloho. He apologizes first, then begs for more growth potion. Our hero sees him on the ground and immediately starts to worry. Just a bit earlier, Iloho was determined to clear every challenge inside the Tower of Warriors, mostly because he wanted to keep his people safe. He steps inside the tower and lands on the first floor, where the main task is simply dodging massive flying boulders to reach the second level in one piece. He steals himself, feeling highly confident after reaching level 2, all thanks to that special growth potion our hero gifted him. His role even upgraded to soldier, and honestly, the brand new armor alone is a major ego boost. But that bravado lasts for only a few seconds before a massive boulder smashes directly into him. He instantly bursts into tears and starts screaming for our hero. Our guy watches the painful memory and suddenly feels extremely guilty for every tiny insect he has ever crushed in this game. Apparently, even ants might have felt the same sheer horror Iloho is experiencing right now. Suddenly, the game cheerfully announces that Iloho has 10 seconds left before his life ends, sending our hero straight into panic mode. He quickly tries calling upon the growth god protection, but absolutely nothing happens. 8 seconds remain. Each rapid tick of the timer makes him more desperate until he finally recalls a valuable reward he received from the owner of the legendary medicinal book. He opens the hunter shop, spots the healing ring finger of the god, and does not hesitate to drop a full 100 gold coins on it. 3 seconds left. He activates the healing artifact just in time, barely saving Iloho. After Iloho recovers, our hero immediately scolds him for ignoring every single warning and charging into that tower anyway. Iloho apologizes, explaining he just wanted to gather power for his struggling tribe. Our hero tells him to leave immediately, and Iloho quickly agrees, but the exit gate stubbornly refuses to open. After checking, our guy realizes it is a copy of the Eternal Truthseeker gate, and Iloho cannot leave unless he manages to reach the 50th floor. Iloho bursts into tears again, staring at our hero, because he is obviously the only person on Earth who can rescue him from this mess. Right on cue, our hero receives a sudden message from the Eternal Truthseeker. He can already sense that they are preparing to pull another trick on him, but with all this chaos unfolding around him, he does not exactly have the luxury to argue. Besides, their persuasive pitch hits him a little too close to home. Just then, someone begins slamming on his door like they are trying to breach a secure vault. Our guy quickly hands Iloho another growth potion and commands him to wait. He drinks a new potion himself, though he highly suspects it is just protein powder disguised as some legendary elixir. Frankly, the entire situation feels like a complete scam. He opens the front door to find a man introducing himself as Kim Timon, the scouting captain of the Luminous Guild. Our hero immediately makes it clear that he is not a The recruiter has other plans, though politely asking if they can sit and talk. Meanwhile, inside the game, the eternal truth seeker is thrilled by Alo's sheer drive. Regaining his focus, Alo gathers his strength and charges at the trial again. He punches the massive boulder so hard it instantly explodes into tiny pieces. Earning the boulder's powerful blessing, he advances straight to the trial of wind. He breezes through that challenge too, all while Sabig watches on his phone. In reality, our hero sits with Tommen, who casually drops a massive offer. He offers hundreds of millions in salary, suggesting a trip to guild headquarters. They just need to sign some papers, but Sabig sits in absolute silence. Tommen is thoroughly puzzled, but Sabig is already dreaming of his perfect future. He imagines writing in peace, enjoying luxury meals with no toxic boss around. Best of all, he can spoil his sister's son with gifts like a wealthy uncle. He is practically vibrating with joy as Tommen sweetens the deal even further. He promises all dungeon rewards and monster materials will belong to Sabig. He starts picturing his novels becoming massive hits and marrying his dream girl. Tommen finally snaps him back to reality, forcing a quick apology for spacing out. Right then, the Eye of the Blind God activates, analyzing Tommen on the spot. It casually drops a terrifying detail: the recruiter is linked to the god of destruction. Talk about a golden trap. Sabig realizes that generous salary was just deadly bait. He desperately wants to point his crushing index finger of the god at Tommen. But Tommen's sheer presence is so overwhelming, Sabig feels completely paralyzed by manners. With his safety on the line, he decides to play it incredibly polite. Sabig claims he is simply too busy, but Tommen completely misinterprets the refusal. The recruiter sits there thoroughly confused, wondering who on earth rejects free money. Our hero quickly explains that he has a strict writing deadline to meet. Tommen gently points out that a novelist's pocket change is nothing to them. But Sabig stands his ground, insisting he writes for passion, not just cash. Tommen apologizes, explaining his guild leader personally ordered him to secure the deal. He begs for just a few more minutes of our hero's precious time. With no choice, Sabig agrees, but politely asks for a quick bathroom break. Tommen nods, and once inside, Sabig frantically tries to piece everything together. He remembers the hospital terrorist was also linked to that god of destruction. Now he must decide whether to call the police or the Hunter Association. Before he can even dial, a thunderous crash rattles the entire bathroom. Tommen completely destroys the door, having overheard our hero trying to call out. And honestly, seeing that terrifying glare is enough to freeze him completely solid. Every coherent thought instantly evaporates as Sabig desperately tries to look calm. He nervously tells Tommen he just needs to make a quick publisher call. But his hands are trembling, his voice is shaking, and it is obvious. He literally looks like a terrified kid caught red-handed in a massive lie. Unsurprisingly, Tommen buys none of it and immediately punches our poor hero. He throws Sabig right out of the room before muttering to himself in annoyance. He is furious he even has to handle a weakling so far beneath his level. Before our dazed hero can even gather his thoughts, Tommen lunges forward again. He ruthlessly grabs Sabig by the throat, fully intending to choke him unconscious. His grip tightens, sharp pain flares as Tommen tells him to sleep. He says it as if he is offering a warm blanket instead of a concussion. His strength drains, vision blurs. Suddenly, the game flashes a system notification in his face, announcing a new rescue quest. He forces his eyes open. The believer to save is Mirai. She was the first person who ever trusted him on Earth, that alone. Yanks him back to consciousness. Tommen notices he is still hanging on. Tommen actually compliments him for lasting longer than most, but he knows he has to deal with Tommen first, though he is also fully aware their power difference places them in a completely separate leg. If this keeps going, he is getting flattened. He needs power. He needs it fast. Suddenly, he hears Ilho calling out to him. Ilho generously offers his strength, and the game instantly transfers. The steel body skilled directly to him, his clothes rip apart instantly. His body transforms, forcing Tammin to step back in pure shock. He assumes it is some physical manifestation technique the guild leader would love. Meanwhile, the young man's dangerous situation takes a very dramatic turn. As his body suddenly bulks up, his clothes completely vanish in seconds. Only his pants remain, shrinking to the bare minimum to preserve decency. The system explains that steel body is basically Ilho's invincible state. It stacks blessings of boulder, wind, steel, and fire together. A devastating elemental combo. Tammin calmly removes his coat. He admits he was disappointed earlier, expecting an easy assignment. But seeing this massive power-up, he realizes it will be a fight. He no longer envies whoever was assigned to capture the other target. Tammin plans to end this quickly, gesturing for him to attack. The young man instantly charges forward and throws a massive fist, but Tammin easily dodges without breaking a sweat, slipping past his strikes. He notes how wildly the hero is attacking with zero defense. Clearly he is strong but inexperienced. Unimpressed, Tammin finally decides to go on the attack, only for the hero to grab his face. With both hands, crushing it as blood gushes from Tammin's nose. A few teeth fly out as the hero smashes him face first into the ground. With Tammin finally down, the hero instantly tries calling Mirai, but gets no answer. He curses the system, demanding her exact location immediately. The system, acting like a shady GPS service, activates the Divine Believer Management Network, showing a general location on Earth that is virtually useless. Then it proudly demands 1,000 coins for the actual spot. He pays instantly since coins might as well be cheap tissue paper. To him now, as the map loads, he sees the sword demon standing right in front of Mirai. This psychopath, obsessed with sharp weapons, calmly tells her it will not hurt, already injured and unable to move. She is stabbed. Her award for maintaining law and order drops too. The ground stained with fresh blood, the system warns that he is watching a tragic future, not the present, and it is set in stone unless he intervenes, remembering the warehouse incident and realizing she is actually alive. The system asks if he wants to change her tragic fate using his god authority. And he accepts without even blinking. He remembers seeing the sword demon's obsession with blades on his profile, and luckily, he has a pretty incredible one himself. He pulls out the heavenly blade, getting completely ready to move out. But naturally, the game demands a ridiculous fee of 100,000 coins. Before he can even complain, his twin titles, Benevolent Savior and God's Creation, activate, teleporting him right away like some kind of premium VIP fast travel. Meanwhile, in another location, Mirai is lying there, injured and terribly confused. She demands to know why the sword demon wants her dead when they have never met. The sword demon coldly replies that he is simply following his strict orders. But he spins around as our hero suddenly materializes right out of nowhere. He is stunned that this stranger used a stealth skill so flawless he missed it. Now he is highly curious about who this guy is. Even hurt, Mirai is stunned to see our hero standing right there with a simple fruit knife, looking ready to slice anything in his way. Ever since the sword demon made the blade his whole life, he has climbed by defeating one terrifyingly powerful opponent after another. So spotting our hero standing there, he calmly assumes he is Mirai's partner. The sword demon has always survived by exploiting the fatal flaws of others, even those far stronger than him, but staring at our hero, he finds absolutely no weaknesses. Our hero's eyes are not even focusing, and he is swinging around that fruit knife like he was just dragged out of the kitchen. He laughs and mumbles constantly about cutting down anything in his path. Naturally, the sword demon cannot bring himself to take this guy seriously. Seriously, it is a tiny fruit knife, so he draws his actual Blade and charges, fully confident that even S-class hunters would get crushed. If this strange guy even manages to dodge once, he is ready to congratulate him on the spot, but that confidence instantly vanishes. His very first slash lands, yet absolutely nothing happens. Our hero is still standing right there, fruit knife in hand, still mumbling about cutting things. The sword demon cannot process his weapon being stopped by a kitchen tool. He forces himself to calm down, deeply scolding his own carelessness. So he unleashes a heavy rock-shattering move, certain this will end it. But our hero casually redirects the massive blast with that same fruit knife. The attack explodes harmlessly behind him like some cheap background effect. That is, when the sword demon finally realizes this situation is completely insane. He strikes from every angle imaginable, but our hero only cares about cutting whatever he sees, swatting the sword demon's attacks away. Like someone brushing off annoying bugs, now the sword demon feels his sanity completely slipping away. He has never encountered a monster like this in his life. He convinces himself this guy must be Mirai's master, a hidden hunter. Probably government-issued and kept secret from the public records. If he is unregistered, then everything suddenly makes perfect sense. With nowhere left to turn, he reaches for the secret move he swore. He would never use it. The technique literally drains his own life, but if it finishes this in one hit, it is a fair trade. He downs a potion. And what little sanity he had left quietly leaves the room. His eyes go wild. The plague curse mark spreads fast across his cheek. He braces himself like. This is the moment everything turns around. He charges forward, fully convinced. This is the final blow. Our hero, meanwhile, reacts with zero urgency. He acts like he is swatting an annoying fly, casually swinging his fruit knife and blocks the attack easily, like this is a minor inconvenience. The sword demon barely dodges the counter, slips behind him, and lands what feels like a perfect hit. In his head, it is completely over, but then his sword decides it has had enough and shatters. Dust fills the air, and when it clears, he sees our guy standing there laughing. He is mumbling about cutting everything, looking far too pleased with himself. Apparently he dodged that lethal strike by simply tilting his neck. Things only spiral out of control from here. The main character moves in bizarre ways, swinging his fruit knife around. The sword demon tries to analyze it, but there is absolutely nothing to compare it to. No known style, just pure chaos. And then he dies, except he does not. He is still standing there alive and completely scratch-free. Knowing the raw power the kid just showed, he knows surviving should be impossible. He cannot comprehend why he was spared or how any of this makes sense. Desperate, he asks who this guy actually is. The main character claims he is the sword god. The demon accepts this immediately. Honestly, would you blame him? At this point, it would be weirder not to. Standing at the absolute peak of the blade, could ever pull this off. He looked bored doing it. Right on cue, the game system alerts him that Aloho's steel body skill sharing has ended, and our hero shrinks back into his normal, fragile-looking self. He stares at the fruit knife, holding it like it personally offended him, begging it to wake up. The system then explains that his beloved weapon, the sword god, which is designed to slice through anything, has just absorbed the sword demon's ghost path. Without a second thought, the sword demon drops straight to his knees. He bows low and declares the boy the honorable sword god. The main character freezes, completely unprepared for this turn of events, but the system sounds thrilled, announcing that his legendary weapon is ready to evolve. The sword demon then begs to witness even more of that god-tier swordsmanship, literally offering up his own life. He even promises to cut open his stomach if the hero wishes. Our guy can tell this man has completely lost his mind. The game system helpfully confirms it right after. The sword demon has officially become his second believer, or rather, full-blown zealot from Earth. Suddenly, a quiet groan pulls the main character back to the Present moment, Miri is still lying on the ground, injured, before he moves the sword. Demon rushes over to hand her a high-grade potion, the absolute best one. He has basically a bottled second chance at life, as the potion begins. Working, the system congratulates him for displaying such an overwhelming divine presence and accidentally scaring someone into absolute devotion. The sword demon bows, apologizing for his earlier disrespect. The quest to save her finishes and her trust in him grows. Our hero is just exhausted from annoying minor pests to completely crazy people from random guilds he has never heard of. This keeps happening way too much, and he still cannot understand why. Everyone is so desperate to get involved with him. The sword demon reassures him that Mary will recover with some rest. Our hero wonders whose fault it was that she got hurt. The sword demon instantly panics and begs him to let him cut open his stomach as punishment, calling this loyalty at this point is being generous because it is closer to pure madness. The sword demon promises he will do it the moment he gets a blade. Our boy barely reacts. Lost in thought, he assumes the sword demon was hired by the Luminous Guild and asks how strong he really is. The sword demon claims there are fewer than 10 people in the entire country he cannot defeat. My guy then casually asks him to destroy the Luminous Guild. The sword demon clearly was not expecting that. Still, our hero coldly reminds him of his promise to obey every single command. After a short pause, the sword demon agrees. To him, he is only a hired weapon, and his own life holds no real value. Meanwhile, our boy is already planning exactly how he will repay the guild for their kindness. The game notifies him that thanks to the absolute, unwavering obedience of his absolute super fan, the sword demon, he has finally met the requirements to unlock a brand new authority. The name alone sounds promising. The proliferating thumb of the god, costing a very modest price of 100 coins. The game politely asks if he wants to activate it. Naturally, our hero completely misunderstands everything immediately. His mind goes straight to multiplying his money. Gold bars and coins may be enough to fix up his future apartment without giving it even a single moment of caution. He agrees. Honestly, there is optimism, and then there is him. Night falls and he runs back to his place like he just uncovered a perfect cheat code for financial freedom. Once inside, he tears his home apart in a total frenzy, frantically hunting for what he calls his emergency savings. After a long and deeply embarrassing search, he finally finds exactly 100 gold coins. He decides to stay positive and remains extremely excited. He activates the skill. Absolutely nothing happens. The game calmly explains that the ability does not work on items. His dreams shatter. Right there, of course it does not work on cash. Why would it? He fumes, completely convinced that no ability will ever let him live a comfortable life. At that moment, silently creeping nightmare sends a message telling him to calm down and protect the dignity expected of a true god. Almost instantly, all slashing heavenly blade chimed in, suggesting he simply slaughter all the insolent trash instead. Our boy finally accepts that just waiting around for enemies to strike is a terrible strategy. If the first move determines everything, he should try attacking first for once. He asks both of them how he can actually grow stronger without instantly dying. Endlessly granting abundance suggests accumulating massive amounts of good karma. Nightmare dismisses that immediately, pointing out that it would take ages and spreading total chaos is better. That way would be much faster, and Heavenly Blade eagerly agrees. He adds that unleashing chaos with a celestial weapon is incredibly efficient. He thinks it over, a brief pause, then a bold plan. Why not do both? Opening the game again, a prompt warns that his choices will decide if he becomes a merciful god or an evil deity. He begins by unleashing the proliferating thumb of God onto the helpless ants, tapping the screen. He multiplies their numbers insanely, aiming to crush the enemy. With pure numerical violence, the game updates 1 million Jayami. Soldiers spawned by his power are now marching toward the Imperial forces and will arrive in 24 hours. He feels a massive rush of excitement, thinking of erasing the enemy forces completely. But wait, something is wrong. The Saintess is actually using his healing ring finger skill on a wounded kid. He freezes. It turns out she can cast his skills too. The kid's wound heals. The Saintess praises him, and the rest of the tribe quickly joins in, offering their thanks with some seriously creepy enthusiasm. The system alerts him that more believers mean more good karma, but our boy starts getting worried. This is dangerously close to how toxic fan clubs start. It never ends well. Still, he figures that as long as those ants keep breathing, his good karma will just keep stacking up on its own. Pretty convenient, honestly. Suddenly, right on cue, his phone starts ringing. It is his manager. And things devolve into a massive shouting match almost instantly. The manuscript is still missing, and the president is completely furious. Getting fired is no longer just a vague threat, but a very real disaster waiting to happen. Our guy calmly claims he just needed a quick break for research, which somehow makes the situation 10 times worse. The manager starts screaming so loud his voice literally blasts out of the speaker, threatening to blow our hero's eardrums, especially when he finds out the work has not even started yet. That is when our boy gets a truly wild idea. Why not use that proliferating thumb skill on himself? He figures this will spawn a perfect copy to handle all his work. He triggers the divine power, and right in front of him, another hymn pops up, set to last for 6,600 seconds. He looks way healthier, sharper, and noticeably less dumb. Ouch, that feels personal. Our boy just stares in absolute shock. It actually worked, feeling confident after this surprise success. He orders the clone to finish up the manuscript. The clone immediately slaps him hard across the face. He tells him straight up not to order him around, then beats him to a bloody pulp until our guy's face is completely unrecognizable. Once the beating stops, the clone feels great. He notices the manager is still on the line, grabs the phone, swears at him, and hangs up. Then he activates the cruel slaughter skill on himself, smirks, and dives straight into the game. Just as the ants start struggling on the battlefield, the clone appears, and the system announces that his cruel slaughter skill has risen to C rank. The Imperial soldiers immediately recognize him as the terrifying evil god from the legends. Everywhere, a bit later, inside the Imperial palace, Arachne receives a grim report from a heavily wounded bug soldier who barely managed to escape the bloody battlefield. Apparently, every single troop sent against the Black Tribe was completely wiped out. She simply cannot believe a single god caused this level of devastation. The soldier insists it was no mere evil god, it was the devil himself. Then, the creature dies on the spot, leaving nothing behind to explain further. Arachne gets quite anxious, insisting that the Emperor must be informed immediately. However, others remind her that he is currently in deep closed-door meditation. Unwilling to wait, she orders the general and the 10 swords to be summoned right away, even after being warned that this could anger neighboring nations. She declares crushing the Black Tribe their absolute highest priority, demanding the hero's head before the Emperor returns. Meanwhile, her servant overhears the entire exchange. He quietly apologizes to Arachne as he leaves, secretly plotting to take the hero's head himself. Back at the apartment, the young man sits in silence, trying to process how his clone beat him senseless without a second thought. He feels pretty pathetic, thinking that if nobody else will hit him, his clone might as well take responsibility. Suddenly, the game warns him that endlessly granting Abundance wants to know where his handsome clone is and if they can meet. The hero ignores this divine nonsense and checks his phone instead. He finds hundreds of missed calls and frantic messages waiting for him. His manager is demanding the immediate return of his advance payment along with a contract. Termination, caught between nonstop game alerts and real-world chaos piling. Up at record speed, he finally snaps, and honestly, who wouldn't? He opens his laptop in panic. The second his manager drops the news about the contract being canceled and the down payment needing to be returned, at this point, panic is not even an emotion anymore, it is a permanent state of mind. He starts typing like his life depends on it. Naturally, this is when the game decides. Is the perfect time to drop a brand new quest, something about rescuing his next believer plus a bit of mining on the side, because apparently his schedule was looking a bit too relaxed to the system. To make matters worse, the believer is none other than the sword demon. The hero is instantly annoyed. He is currently trying to save his career, not adopt another overly enthusiastic fan. He decides to ignore the system alert with total conviction. Unfortunately, the game has never once respected his personal boundaries and forcibly activates the sword demon's perspective anyway. He does not want to watch, but the scene forces itself onto his screen. The sword demon is chained up inside a dark underground chamber, looking exactly as comfortable as someone awaiting execution probably should. A woman stands before him, speaking. She is known as Iron Beauty, blessed by the god of destruction, and her flames are quite clearly not just for dramatic flair. She questions him politely, even promising that if he cooperates honestly, she will ensure his death is painless. A chill runs down the hero's spine as he wonders if the sword demon was captured after attacking the Luminous Guild. Then he notices another intimidating presence, a massive man named Ironhead, also blessed by the same god and built like someone whose he lives for violence. Before he can even process this properly, the game helpfully digs. It goes straight into memories of the sword demon. Without asking, the past unfolds. As a child, he was sold to a gang and raised as an assassin, trained to kill before knowing what a normal life even looked like. After awakening his martial talent, he carried out countless assassinations in secret. He already knew Iron Beauty and Iron Head from the Luminous Guild, and rivalry came naturally. Normal logic never applied here. Strength was his only goal, walking a dark path where sword and self blurred. At the peak of his swordsmanship, he finally glimpsed the truth he wanted, all thanks to our hero and his strange fruit knife. Now bound in chains, he quietly wonders, is this the end? Iron Beauty asks why he attacked the Luminous Guild and who gave him orders. Iron Head is bored and wants him dead. Iron Beauty reminds him that Yan promised a massive reward if the demon was taken alive for sacrifice. Iron Head coldly warns that if she interferes, she dies too. She backs down. The demon apologizes to our hero in his thoughts while Iron Head prepares to strike, and right on cue, the game teleports our hero to the demon location. Without a second to think, our boy uses Skillshare to borrow muscles of Aliho. He yanks the demon away right before Iron Head can land his blow. Iron Head demands answers, but our hero ignores him completely and immediately tries combining Mirror Lightning with the steel body through skill sharing. He is completely convinced this single move will solve everything, even feeling a flash of pride for coming up with such a clever plan. The game promptly warns him that he cannot share skills with more than one follower stronger than himself. This causes a brutal overload that crashes through his body. Iron Head is furious at what he assumes is mockery. He strikes our hero, but pain explodes across his body and Iron Head suddenly screams instead. It turns out our hero borrowed steel body somehow holds. Talk about luck. He is convinced he is about to die, only for Iron Head to collapse first. Iron Beauty rushes to his side, while our boy feels relief that one major problem is finally resolved. Iron Beauty turns her rage on him and unleashes her flames. He panics, certain he is toast. Instead, the steel body withstands the fire. It is unbearably hot, sure, but it feels more like sitting in an aggressive sauna than being burnt alive, and disturbingly, he finds it somewhat pleasant. As the dust settles, Iron Beauty checks to see if he is dead. He is still standing there, very much alive and looking far too satisfied. He silently thanks Ella for such an absurdly durable body. Furious, Iron Beauty pours even more power into her flames, determined to incinerate him completely. He endures it again and easily throws her aside. The shared steel body ends at the perfect moment. He knows that if it had disappeared even a second earlier, he would have been nothing but charcoal on the floor. The quest to save the sword demon completes and his abilities bloom as the reward. His first thought is whether this means did his writing skills improve? Predictably, the answer is no, just disappointment. It arrives right on schedule. Meanwhile, the sword demon somehow becomes even more obsessed. Our main character shoots him a look that clearly tells him to stop staring like that. He then looks around, totally confused about his surroundings, before suddenly remembering something. He still has a manuscript to finish, so he tells the sword demon they need to leave. Right then, Yon appears and greets our protagonist, prompting the sword demon to react. He urgently warns him that Yon is the mastermind behind this entire mess. Our hero checks Yon's profile and finds he is behind sacrifices to the god of destruction. But to our guy, Yon does not look like some terrifying nightmare boss. He is just a creepy pervert standing there completely naked. Then, Yon spots him. The second he lays eyes on our hero, Yon bursts into tears, leaving our boy totally stunned. This naked weirdo is sobbing in front of him like a long-lost friend. Yon rambles on and on, crying about how incredibly overwhelmed he feels. His entire body is shaking because he is finally meeting another apostle of the gods. Without warning, he steps forward and tries to wrap our hero in a giant hug. But the sword demon quickly blocks his path, warning Yon to back off. Yon barely even acknowledges the threat, looking at the sword demon like he is absolutely nothing. He treats him like an annoying bug and casually slaps him out of the way. The strike is so insanely effortless that you cannot even tell if the demon survived. Our main character stands there completely frozen. Talk about an absolute power gap. This same demon went toe-to-toe with Miri, but Yon just swatted him away. Yon casually turns right back to our terrified hero and asks which god he serves. Our boy mutters something under his breath, but Yon cannot quite hear him. That is when our protagonist completely loses his cool. He loudly curses at Yon. He uses Miri's skill to punch Yon hard. He holds absolutely nothing back in this strike. One of Arachne's most loyal servants finally makes his move far away in the fantasy game world. Striking the black ants means fewer believers, which will naturally drain our hero's power. He understands that logic completely. Meanwhile, back at the peaceful black ant village, the tribe is just going about their daily routine, completely minding their own business. They are completely unaware of the looming danger. Then, they spot the Sky Invader. The enemy activates his poisonous dance, raining down deadly venom onto the village. This brutal attack decimates the ants to weaken our boy. Now, back to the battle. Our hero follows up that lightning punch with a heavy kick, sending Yon flying. Yon crashes hard into the dirt. See, our protagonist lives by a very simple rule. The one who strikes first usually wins the fight. Unfortunately, Yon gets right back up. Our boy panics, blasting him with more thunder to end this for good. Yon collapses once again, but then he calmly starts picking himself up. At this point, our guy is genuinely baffled. Miri's lightning skill is failing. The only explanation is that this pervert is not just weird, he is immortal. Yon proudly confirms it, explaining that his body will always instantly regenerate from damage. Our hero suddenly realizes his protective steel body skill has already run out. Even worse, he can no longer summon any more lightning attacks. Though honestly, it would not have mattered anyway. Cold dread begins to creep in. He might actually lose his life right here, for absolutely no reason at all. Yuan, on the other hand, looks bored, yawning as he demands some actual entertainment. Our boy curses under his breath, frantically hunting for any way out. With no choices left, he finally activates the legendary skill. The proliferating thumb of the god, summoning his clone, Yuan actually finds this pretty cool, praising the impressive copy before him, but then the clone locks eyes with his creator. Our boy breaks into a cold sweat, instantly remembering their last brutal encounter. The clone thrashed him just for giving orders, so he wisely keeps his mouth shut. Fortunately, the clone instantly sizes up the battlefield, realizing they are in serious trouble. He warns our hero that his ants are in danger. If they die, his power vanishes too. Gone in an instant, but while they whisper, Yuan gets furious at being completely ignored. Yuan attacks in a fury. The clone dodges, but the heavy blow hits our boy. The impact sends him crashing through the air. Right now, he realizes something vital. Absolute power means nothing if you just end up dead, but before he can spiral. The clone gives him some parting advice: burn Yuan to ashes before vanishing. He slips back into the phone, leaving our hero completely dazed and confused. How is he supposed to burn anyone, and how did the clone exit so casually? Yuan readies another strike, but our hero suddenly remembers his trump card. He still has the condemning middle finger of the god. In an instant, his confidence returns. He holds his hand high, boldly aiming his middle finger straight at Yuan. He unleashes the divine gesture, expecting some world-shaking spectacle. Maybe a massive pillar of roaring fire, or even a localized fire tornado. Wait for it, a pathetic little flame just lazily sparks on his fingertip. Yuan stares at the tiny spark, looking almost personally insulted by the attempt. As the villain prepares to strike, our boy panics, desperately trying to boost the flame. He combines it with the proliferating thumb of the god, multiplying and throwing it. But Yuan simply brushes the flames aside, completely unimpressed, and lunges forward. Our hero, absolutely terrified, starts mentally writing his own tragic obituary. He survived a beating from his own clone, only to end up here. Now he might actually die at the hands of a naked, emotionally unstable lunatic. The pure unfairness of life stings, but then he spots something utterly bizarre. Yuan suddenly freezes, his body twisting in what looks like absolute, agonizing pain. You have to love the irony. Even arrogant immortals have bad days, apparently. Suddenly, a game system notification pops up to clear up the confusion. The more wicked the target, the more the hellish flames of Gehenna consume them. Our boy blinks, completely unaware he even possessed such a devastating, broken ability. He wonders why the system always waits until the absolute last second to explain things. But before he can complain, Yuan snaps out of it and lunges again. Meanwhile, in the game world, Arachne's servant finishes poisoning the entire village. The ants are suffering terribly when the clone suddenly steps onto the scene. The servant recognizes him, eagerly squaring up for what he expects is a fight. Instead, the clone lands one simple punch, and the guy instantly drops dead. This is not a battle, it is just squashing an annoying bug with style. The clone looks down at the poisoned ants, wondering if they are beyond saving. Meanwhile, back in reality, our hero lies collapsed on the cold, hard ground. His shattered body screams in protest, every single bone crying out in agony. The system warns him that his believers are about to drop sharply, and if too many perish, his powers will weaken right along with them. It then politely asks if he wants to use the healing ring finger of the god on them. At that exact moment, our guy gets a wild idea. He thinks about using it on himself instead, but the game demands a whopping 10 million coins. He almost loses his mind because healing followers is cheap. While fixing his own body costs a massive fortune, left with no choice, he uses the skill on his believers instead. The ant survives, and in return he gets some white god coins back. He is pretty happy with the refund. Then he heals his own body fully, feeling instantly invincible. Yuan cannot believe his eyes as our hero stands back up and immediately strikes. Channeling Ilhu's steel body, he unleashes the condemning ring finger of the god on Yuan, who barely manages to dodge. Yuan finally admits this kid is impressive, until then he figured the hero was just some weakling. Now he mentions having sacrificed the powers of 999 people, wanting our guy next. Suddenly, the system announces that the god of destruction is descending. Our hero quickly connects the dots. This explains why Yuan captured the sword demon first. To use him as bait, Yuan laughs, thanking our hero for being the final sacrifice. The ceiling cracks open as a massive, single-eyed monster descends. Our protagonist tries to use his crushing index finger of the god. The game immediately tells him this skill is useless against the god of destruction. Right then, Yuan screams in agonizing pain, accusing his god of betrayal and breaking their sacred promise. Then, without warning, he collapses, realizing his luck ran out. Our hero braces for death. But instead, a mysterious vision flashes before him, a strange, dreamlike sequence. A god once revered by everyone, mighty and gentle, now reduced to the shape of a simple fruit knife, the mountain-crushing giant once known as the all-slashing heavenly blade, but due to the dragon of the abyss, he lost his beloved priestess to treachery and eventually lost his own life. A god who once brought peace is reborn as pure vengeance itself. Our hero looks up and freezes, spotting a giant sword towering right before him, just as the massive monster lets out a deafening roar. Nearby, the sword demon is terrified. The thing towering over them is so frightening that his instincts urge him to protect our hero, but his body is paralyzed. Our guy turns to him, saying to snap out of it and watch closely as he demonstrates a neat little trick. This, he explains, is exactly how he will crush the god that pervert Yuan worships so passionately. The sword demon, despite being absolutely petrified and painfully aware of how useless he is right now, still thinks our protagonist looks ridiculously cool. Just then, Yuan regains consciousness only to realize he is completely trapped, tightly bound in a deadly serpent's grip. Panic immediately takes over as he screams that this is not what he asked for. He accuses the god of devouring someone as incredibly loyal as him. Begging desperately for mercy, our guy doesn't bother softening the blow, telling him straight that the being he serves is no god, just a savage demon.